அனைவருக்கும் நமஸ்காரம். கலை விழாவின் தலைவர்கள் ஸ்ரீ வெங்கட்ராமன், ஸ்ரீ மகாலிங்கம். இவர்களை இன்றைய முக்கிய விருந்தினர் ஸ்ரீ சந்தீப் காட்டே, ஃபவுண்டர் இன்ஸ்டாஃபின் ஃபைனான்சியல் அட்வைசர்ஸ் LLP புனே அவர்களையும், கெஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆனர் ஸ்ரீ M. பாலசுப்ரமணியன், வைஸ் சேர்மன் அண்ட் மேனேஜிங் டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் சக்தி சுகர்ஸ் லிமிடெட் கோயம்புத்தூர் அவர்களையும், நமது இன்றைய சிறப்பு பேச்சாளர்கள் சர்வகலா சூடாமணி உபய வேதாந்த ஸ்ரீ துஷ்யந்த் ஸ்ரீதர் சுவாமி அவர்களையும், சீனியர் அட்வொகேட் ஹைகோர்ட் ஆஃப் டெல்லி அண்ட் சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா ஸ்ரீ ஜெயக்குமார் சாய் தீபக் அவர்களையும் மேடைக்கு அழைத்து வர அன்புடன் வேண்டுகின்றோம். A warm welcome to our distinguished guests on the stage and our Rasikas. Sanatana Dharma is a hot topic today, and our young scholars are here to enlighten us about the same. Sri Dushyan Sridhar Swami, simple, smiling, intellectual person in a white veshti and angavastram with Trinamam on his forehead, discoursing on ancient scriptures, has captured the minds of spiritually inclined and connects to the young. He has delivered over 3,500 discourses across 25 countries. His discourses on topics related to Sanatana Dharma enjoy a wide spectrum of audience on several televisions and digital channels. His views on issues related to Sanatana Dharma are eagerly awaited in leading news channels. He is a modern-day messenger of peace and love whose followers run into millions. His initiative title, Abhinava E-Patashala, taught Vedic content during the COVID pandemic to over 7,000 Sishyas worldwide, sans discrimination. He has conceptualized and produced classical dance productions like Agre Pasyami, Ramayana Sudha, Srinivasam Prabhadye, and Aranganin Padayal, a novel concept. He has acted as a protagonist in movie Vedanta Desika in 2018. Has directed the award-winning Sanskrit movie Shakuntalam in 2023. He has authored a brilliant coffee table book titled Vedanta Desika. In the last decade, he has organized 33 heritage tours to 200 temples with over 400 yatris in 6 countries. He manages Desika Daya, a charitable trust that has carried out extensive cultural and spiritual activities and which have attracted enthusiastic participation from young and old alike. The trust has donated more than 90 lakhs in charity. He is a recipient of numerous titles and awards like Sarva Chudamani, Harikatha Bharati, Rama Bhakti Pracharamani, Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati National Eminence Award, etc. He is an alumnus of BITS Pilani and interned at the Indian Institute of Science as an IAS fellow. Our other eminent speaker, Sri Jaikumar Sai Deepak. He is a social activist, lawyer, essayist, and writer. Mechanical engineer from Anna University, Bachelor of Law from Law School IIT Kharagpur. As a counsel, he practiced before the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court. In 2024, he was designated as senior advocate by Delhi High Court. Sri Sai Deepak is a prominent Supreme Court advocate known for his expertise in constitutional law, commercial litigation, and intellectual property rights. He has gained attention for his articulate arguments and legal analysis on various high-profile cases. He appeared as an argument counsel in the Sabarimala case on behalf of our Lord. He has been part of several landmark cases, such as those related to Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple, the Basmati geographical indications, and the marital rape exception in the Indian Penal Code. In 2019, Sri Sai Deepak was awarded the Young Alumni Achievers Award by his alma mater, IIT Kharagpur. He knew that Hindu voices are not being heard. So to make their voice heard, Sri Deepak published well-researched books like India, that is Bharat, and was honored with Scotch Literature Award for this book, which is given only to people who have done something extraordinary for the betterment of the Indian society. Also, a second book, India, Bharat and Pakistan. Books were released in English, Telugu and Hindi. Apart from delivering lectures on constitutional issues, he writes prolifically for leading newspapers and magazines, many articles on the internet on the different ongoing issues throughout India. He is also a writer, author, and founder of the law chambers of Sai Deepak, armed with vast knowledge, being a fierce legal expert, and being an excellent human being. Sri Sai Deepak has emerged as today's favorite icon to look up to. To welcome our eminent speakers, we are honored to have as our chief guest, Sri Sandeep Kateji, founder, Instafin Financial Advisors LLP Pune, and guest of honor, Sri M. Balasubramaniam, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Sakti Sugars Limited, Coimbatore. Our chief guest, Sri Sandeep Gate, is an MBA from Asian Institute of Management, Manila, Philippines, has over 30 years experience in financial engineering, founded and very successfully running a boutique investment bank in Pune called the Instafin Financial Advisors LLP. But that is not the reason he is here. He set up a trust called Ashtasiddhi Hanumanji Foundation. The trust, under its Annapurna Seva program, distributes about 1,100 free food packets every afternoon to the poor in front of the Sasun Hospital in Pune, provides vocational training to about 15 women every month in tailoring, beautician, spoken English to promote self-employment, supports education of girl children under its Akshara program. The trust has a Go Mata Raksha program and is planning to set up a Goshala in due course covering fodder and medical attention. He supports Avaz of Mumbai, which calls itself Voice of Stray Animals, and rehabilitates them. For many years, Sri Sandeep Gate has been supporting and encouraging our festival. A warm welcome to our chief guest, Sri Sandeep Gateji. We are glad to welcome our guest of honor, Sri M. Balasubramaniam, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Sakti Sugars Limited, Coimbatore, who holds a master's degree in commerce from Madras University and a master's degree in business administration from Notre Dame University, USA. Sri Balasubramaniam, the second son of late Arutchelvar Dr. N. Mahalingam, more popularly known as Pollachi Mahalingam, serves as a promoter, director within the esteemed Shakti Group. He holds the position of Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Sakti Finance Limited, along with serving as a Managing Director of Sakti Sugars Limited. They run the Kumaraguru Group of institutions with engineering, agriculture, and business schools. Their engineering college was the first private engineering college in Tamil Nadu. Their colleges have the highest accreditation and many students on various high positions. Sri Balasubramaniam serves as the secretary for Nal Amudu Goundar Mahalingam College of Arts and Science in Pollachi. He has contributed to academia as a past Senate member of Bharatiyar University and has also served as a former chairman of the Confederation of the Indian Industry, Coimbatore. Currently, he holds the elected position of the industrial representative of AICTE. He is a trustee for Ramananda Adigalar Foundation. His late father, Sri Pollachi Mahalingam, has contributed immensely to Sanatana Dharma, Shaiva literature and Tamil culture. Vallala teachings were published as books. More than 100 temples were renovated. Heavy contributions were made for good causes. Tirukkural was translated in many languages. Tevaram Music Festival in Chennai was started. And today, until today, artists are honored. The good deeds of Sri Mahalingam, spiritual and social services, are still carried on by Sri Balasubramaniam. We would like to recognize the presence of Srimati Balasubramaniam here, who's heading Namadu Pangu, an integrated community development initiative led by volunteers from Gumaraguru College of Technology. We would also like to recognize Ms. Shruti, his daughter, here with us, who is an executive director of Sakti Financial Services and also heading corporate social responsibilities apart from the business. We are grateful to Sri Balasubramaniam, a well-wisher of Sriramanavami festival, who has been helping us for the past 25 years. Now, we request our chief guest, Sri Sandeep to present a shawl to Rama Bhakta Pracharamani Ubay Vedanta, Sri Dushyan Sridhar Avarhal. Request Sri Balasubramaniam to present a garland to Sri Dushyan Sridhar Avarhal. Request Sri Balasubramaniam to present a shawl to our eminent speaker, Senior Advocate, High Court of Delhi and Supreme Court of India, Sri Jaikumar Sai Deepak Avarhal. Request Sri Sandeep Ghate to present a garland to Sai Deepak Avarhal. Thank you, sirs, for honoring our speakers and welcoming them to our stage for a unique program this evening. Request Sri Sandeep Ghate to address our gathering.
Shri Ram, Jai Shri Hanuman, Vande Mataram. Shri Dushyanth Sridhar Swami ji, Shri Sai Deepak ji, Shri Venkatramana, President of the festival, Shri Mahalingam, Vice President of this festival. I am so very delighted to be a part of and witness today's program. The moment my good friend and brother Sridhar Subhashri showed me the schedule in January of this year, I decided to be here this evening. It's really an honor to be with all of you. All of us have seen Sri Dushyanth presenting and interviewing on national TV channels with his exhaustive knowledge of Indian culture, tradition, and Sanatana Dharma. He has an uncanny knack of stating the correct position on spiritual related subjects without getting into some shouting matches, which are very common today. No wonder he is described as the national spokesman of Sanatana Dharma. Now, who can forget then young advocate of the Indian Supreme Court, whose presentations made the Sabrimala bench sit up and pay serious attention? Shri Sai Deepak has become a household name since he has also successfully represented in the Padmanabha Swami case. I have no great knowledge of laws and courts, thankfully, but I do think it is a rare privilege that one of the blogs of Shri Sai Deepak has been quoted in a High Court judgment. He is a warrior who believes that knowledge systems of ancient Hindu civilization blended with modern education system can be an important template for future education systems in India. So I salute the champions of Sanatana Dharma. This is a great time for renaissance of Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma in India. The country needs more and more dynamic catalysts like Sri Dushyanth and Sri Sai Deepak. Sri Navami Cultural Festival has been spearheading the cultural revolution in the Twin Cities for the last 64 years. I have seen the books published by the festival for the last 2 to 3 years. They have been for Cultural Connect. This year, the festival has commenced the epics competition for school children and a competition involving recitation of shlokas and quizzing on Ramayana and Mahabharata. This, according to me, is catching them very young. I am also so eager to hear the two stalwarts on stage speak on Sanatana Dharma, given the three-dimensional perspective that is past, present, and the future. I thank the festival committee for giving me an opportunity to be in your midst. With these words, I hand over the stage back. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, for your nice words. Request Sri Balasubramaniam to please address our gathering.
Good evening to everyone. Mr. Sri Sai Deepak, Mr. Dushyan Sridhar, President and Secretary of the Navami Culture Association, and Mr. Subhashri. Our relationship of Sakti Group with Mr. Subhashri goes a long time back, ever since he has been the chairman of the GTB and has evolved over a period of time and matured into a very long, beyond professional relationship, a very friendly relationship. And that has carried on even beyond the business relationship into a spiritual and a long-lasting friendship. So though we've been supporting the Navami function for the last very many years, I must apologize that this is the first time that we are attending the function here. So when I was here yesterday to Arnasi, Mr. Arnasi's function yesterday evening, it took me back about 40 years back when our father used to take us, all of us. The summer vacations used to be more a spiritual journey into various temples, and we used to experience Sanatana Dharma in live practice, and not in lectures but through actions. This way, I think we have been a joint family. We still continue to be a joint family amongst all our uncles. Though we don't live together in the same house because of the societal progress, but in mind we still continue to be a joint family. I think Sanatana Dharma then, I think, becomes an extension of the joint family values, which I feel that I see that it's being demonstrated today. And when Mr. Subhashri said that the effort that the Navami organizers do is to bring contemporary speakers to engage the future generations in imparting the social values and Sanatana Dharmic values, and ensure that the values of Indian civilization lives on. I was very happy, and I was able to see it yesterday in real life. My daughter, who came here yesterday, I think felt the same thing. Though we were not able to do to her what our father did to us because of the obvious social and digital world has taken us apart. But still, I think the values and the DNA carries on. Therefore, I think events such as these go to deepen these values much stronger. Therefore, I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to be present in this dais. I'm a very big follower of both of them on the YouTube, so it is as though I'm kind of being with them up close. I thank you once again.
Thank you, sir, for your nice words. Request our President Sri Venkataraman to garland Sri Sandeep Gate Avarhal. Sri Venkataraman will garland Sri Balasubramaniam Avarhal. Request our Vice President Sri Mahalingam to present Sri Sandeep Gate a memento. Sri Mahalingam will present Sri Balasubramaniam with a memento. We thank our chief guest, Sandeep Gate, and guest of honor, Sri Balasubramaniam, for their valuable time traveling all the way from Pune and Coimbatore for our program. It was indeed a pleasure to welcome them on our stage. We thank them for their gracious presence this evening and honoring our speakers. Thank you. Thank you once again, sirs. Thank you. Tomorrow on the 13th, Annadanam will be held at Ganesh Temple near station at 9 a.m. Your great support will help us. Epic competition, junior and senior quiz finals were held today. Following this, Sloka and epic competition prizes will be given at a festival on the 14th at 5:30 p.m. Tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m., learned Pandits will recite Vedam, and as per our tradition, at 5:45, Agama Shilpa Veda Sastra Pandits will be honored on our stage, followed by Sangeeta Upanyasam by Srimati Vishaka Hari on Vishnu Sahasranamam at 6:30. All are welcome. Now, it is the time for Sanatana Dharma, past, present and future. Over to Sri Dushyanth Sridhar Swami and Sri Sai Deepak Avarhal. Thank you.
Ramanuja Dayapatram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Ramanuja Dayapatram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimadvenkatanathāryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Lakshminatha Samarambham Nathaya Munamadhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityam Achyuta Padambuja Yugmarukma Vyamohatas Taditarani Trinaya Mene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Mata Pita Yuvatayastanaya Vibhutis Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Madanvayanam Adyasyanah Kulapater Vakulabhiramam Srimat Tadangri Yugalam Pranamami Murdhana Bhutam Sarascha Mahadahvaya Bhattanatha Sri Bhaktisara Kulashekara Yogi Vahan Bhaktangri Renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimat Parankushamunim Pranatosmi Nityam Namassadase Namassabhayai. With the abundant blessings of Paramatma Shriyapati, this is my 32nd lecture in this very premises. And indeed, a moment of Saubhagyam to have been a part of this famed festival of this Bhagya Nagari. And right since 2012 till about 2023, I've been speaking. And this lecture is different because this is in Angla Bhasha. And second, I'm standing. Generally, we are seated and it goes in the traditional form. Before I even start speaking, I thought since this festival is named after Sri Rama, Jayatya Shrita Santrasa Dhvanta Vidhvamsa Nodayaha Prabhavan Sitaya Devya Paramavyoma Bhaskaraha. It is named after Prabhu Sri Ramachandra. So even before I speak, I thought I'll do a small Sankirtanam to give myself a feel that I'm doing a Pravachanam. The only thing that, it's like the Insta collab, where you'll just have to say Ram. That's all. Not the one, don't take the name of the one who's seated somewhere in the Mount Road. So this is Dasharatha Rama. Saguna Brahma Paratpara Kalatmaka Parameshwara Seshatalpa Sukha Nidrita Brahmadyamara Prarthita Chanda Kirana Kula Mardana Srimad Dasharatha Nandana Kausalya Sukha Vardhana Vishwamitra Priyadhana Ghora Tataka Ghataka Marichadrini Pataka Kaushika Makha Samrakshaka Srimadahalyodharaka Gautama Muni Sampujita Suramuni Varagana Samstuta Navika Dhavita Mrudupada Mithila Purajana Mohaka Videha Manasa Ranjaka Triambaka Karmuka Bhanjaka Sitarpita Varamalika Kritavaivahika Kautuka Bhargava Darpa Vinashakaram Srimad Ayodhya Palakaram Rama Rama Jaya Raja Ram Rama Rama Jaya Sita Ram. We have been a beautiful, perpetual, eternal civilization. Yecha Veda Vido Vipraha, Yecha Adhyatma Chetasaha, Te Vadanti Mahatmanam Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam. This is a vachanam from Sri Mahabharatam, where Vyasa says, Yecha Veda Vido Vipraha, those of them who are adept in Karma Kandam. Yecha Adhyatma Chetasaha, those of them who are adept in Jnana Kandam, Karma Kandam and Jnana Kandam. Yecha Veda Vido Vipraha, Yecha Adhyatma Chetasaha, Te Vadanti, Bahuvachana Prayogam, they all unanimously state Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam. The verses as stated by Krishna, whatever has been given to us by Purvacharya Surakshitam is Sanatana Dharma. So that being the topic of the day, there is a nama for Bhagavan in Sri Vishnu Sahasranamam, Vishvam Vishnuhu Vashatkaraha Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, the one who is the past, the one who is the present, the one who is the future. So Sanatana Dharma has been asked to be discussed in that perspective. So a few pointers which what is that Twitter language, IMHO, in my humble opinion, which I wish to submit in the presence of so many astikas of this Bhagya Nagari is: one, for a very long time we have always wanted to understand the role of the hunters, the Kiratas, in Sanatana Dharma. One lesser known fact, or probably not so noticed fact, is the role of Guha in Srimad Ramayanam. Nishadanam Neta Kapikulapatihi Kapi Shabari Kuchela Kubjasa Vrajayuvatayoho Malya Kridati, says Vedanta Deshika. Trimangayalvar says, Yezhai Yedalan Kilmagan Yennadirangi Mattavar Kinnarul Shurandu Malaiman Madanokki Umbi Yembendru Urindilai. When Rama leaves Ayodhya, Sita joins him. He initially asks Sita, you stay back, 14 years will go just like this. The world is small, let's keep meeting again. After 14 years, I'll come and meet you. Sita still insisted that she should join him. There's a beautiful conversation, Samvadam, that Valmiki states between Prabhu Rama and Sita. At one point in time, he starts convincing, no, you don't come. You won't have all these comforts there. So I will go and come. She has a valid point. She says, see, if I come with you, I will come with you. Here there are so many mothers-in-law. So the better option is to join you. So I'll come. So I will join you. And then Lakshmana does Sharanagati. Sabhratus Sharanaugadham Nipidya Raghunandanaha Sitamuvachatishayam Raghavam cha Mahavratam Aham Sarvam Karishyami Jagrataha Swapataschate. I shall do all possible services to you. Saint Tyagaraja in the Telugu Bhasha says, Chitraratnamaya Seshatalpamandu Sitapatini Unchi Juchi Mitri Bhagyame Bhagyamu. So the three of them start. When they reach the outskirts of Vatsadesha, which is Shringiberapuram, Rama ends up meeting Guha. And he introduces Sita to Guha, which essentially means Rama knew of Guha. Else somebody has to introduce Guha to Rama. How does this introduction happen? He says, this is Guha, my friend. Guha nodu Aivaranom. This is my friend, Guha. The anecdote that is given is based on Shastric facts. There is a Vedavakyam which says, Nishadasthapataye yajayet. If a Raja has to perform a yajna, the one who has to be one of the most invited guests for the yajna is the head of the tribal community. Nishadastha pataye yajayet. So Guha's father was invited when Dasharatha performed Ashwamedham and Putrakameshti. Girvanair arthyamano dashamukha nidanam kosaleshu rishyashringe putriyam ishtimishtva dadushi Dasharatha kshma bhrite payasagryam, says Bhattatri. So very much Guha's father was a part of that yajna. This friendship that lasted between the chief of the hunters community, who is Guha's father, and Dasharatha, continued to the next generation as well when Rama was under the tutelage of Vasishtha. When he had to go to the forest, Paravakota Andavan, one of the greatest yatis in the last century, mentions in his book that Rama friended, he became very good friends with Guha. So the role of the hunters community. Second, when Arjuna was doing tapas in the Vanaparva of Sri Mahabharatam, it is said that he propitiated Mahadeva. And Mahadeva appeared in the form of a Kirata with his Dharmapatni. Here is a beautiful verse. Herambaganda mada panka vishesha kautau skandau pavahya shikipincha kritavachudau bhusha dhuni tatataruchadana kripta vaktrau kodandino vyaruchitam kuhana kiratau. How did they dress up? As the lady of the Shabara community, as the man of the Shabara community. It seems he wanted instant costume. So he took the solidified Madajalam that comes from the mastaka of the elephant, which is Ganesha, plucked 2-3 feathers of the peacock, which he just plucked the feathers. Now, somebody will take this 10 seconds what I have spoken. And then they'll file one case. Putting it there. So he plucked those feathers of the peacock, attached it to his cap, and then took the leaves of the trees that were by the banks of river Ganga, adorned as the Kirata and Kirati with the beautiful bow. Yata ishu shivatama shivam babhuva te dhanuhu shiva sharavyaya tavatayano rudram ridaya, says Shatarudriyam. So they came as a Kirata and the Stri. But the beauty is in Kerala, Vetakara Magan. So there is a practice of worshipping the son born to Shiva in the form of Kirata. So why am I giving such examples of Kannappa Nayanar or of Kirata, Shiva coming as Kirata is when, see, I have my own problems. I give lecture practically every day somewhere or the other. There will be a slew of questions. The moment I give an email ID, why did he do this? Why did he do that? But still, I have to answer. Why did Dasharatha marry so many people? He didn't ask my permission. See, I am no advocate for Dasharatha. I have to tell you what Ramayanam states. If at all you have chance of going to Swargam or Vaikuntham, you have to ask him there. Not ask me, but nevertheless. So these are the questions that come with respect to the Kiratas. With respect to the Shudra Jati, it is very important to address. Vedeshu Paurusham Suktam Dharmashastreshu Manavam Bharate Bhagavad Gita Puraneshu Cha Vaishnavam is a Prachina Subhashitam. In all the Vedas you find Purusha Suktam. The number of mantras may differ, and the Purusha Sukta that has been recited today is the version that is found in the Krishna Yajurvedam. It begins with Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha and goes on till the Uttaranuvakam that is taken from Mahanarayana Upanishad. Here comes the big question. Every debate that we go, this question standard, it will be there. So we have to by heart the answer and go. Mukham kimasya kaubahu kavuru pada ucheta. The next mantra is Brahmanosya mukhamasit bahu rajanya kritaha uru tadasya yadvaishyaha padbhyagum shudro ajayata. This is the mantra. This is called a drishta vidhi in Vedam. Drishta vidhi is an illustration. Now, immediately when I go, especially I think Telugu channels are better, when I go to the Tamil channels, I'll be bombarded. Parthiirgala. Yengirundu pirandargal endru kooruvittar parthiirgala. See, there are 5 commentators to the Vedas, especially the Purusha Sukta Bhagam. Uvatacharya, Mahidharacharya, Sayana, Bhattabhaskara, Rangaramanujamani. The 5 commentators not born in the 19th or 20th century. I am talking in the last 1000 years. None of them ever say that one is superior and the other is inferior. There is not one line found there. When we describe Ranganatha We do padadikesham. Remember, there is a rule here. When the essence of Bhagavatam comes as Narayaniyam, Bhattatri says, Maricham dravayitva makhashirasi sharair anyarksham sinigran kalyam kurvan ahalyam patipadarajasa prapya vaideha geham. Rama protected the yajna of Vishwamitra, makhashirasi. When did he protect? He says, he protected the head of the yajna. Head is the first portion. Now, as per Ramayanam, 6 days the yajna was performed by Vishwamitra, and the last day is when Rama protects the yajnam from Maricha and Subahu. So, the last day is the 6th day, not the first day, last day. But Bhattatri says, Makhashirasi, the head. Why? It's a technical point. In Sanskritam, Yajno vai Vishnu. Yajnaha is Pullingam. For the man, when you describe the body structure, you have to go toe to head. Padadi Kesham. You cannot go Keshadi Padam. So, Padadi Kesham, Kesham, the head, becomes the last. So, 6th day becomes the Shiras. So, Padam Bhojam Sprushati Bhajate Ranganathasya Jangam, to commemorate the contribution made by Maha Acharyas from the Shudra Jati. Even today, when you go to a temple adhering to a Vaishnava Agama, there is a crown-like structure placed on your head. It is called Shatari. That Shatari represents, the 2 feet in the sandals represent that of Bhagavan, and the structure below represents Nammalvar of the Shudra Jati. And when you go to Nammalvar Sannidhi, the sandals are of Nammalvar, and below is Madhura Kaviyalvar, who is of Brahmana Jati. So this representation of Shatari, Vedanta Deshika says, Nityam Manipaduke Dadhanaha Samuniste Shatakopa Ityabhikyam Twadupashruta Padajata Vamsham Pratipatyai Paramatatana Rupam. So, to commemorate the contribution of Swami Nammalvar of the Shudra Jati, who came from the beautiful lotus-like feet of Bhagavan, all of them hold Shatari on their head. So, if you look into the description given of the Shudras, there is one particular line in Tantravartika, where the Acharya says in Tantravartika, that there was one period where here and there you will see people from all the 4 Varnas who were ruling a region. It was not only restricted to the Kshatriyas. So these are all subtle points that we need to make note of. But where is the problem? Here is where I'll describe 4 terms. One is Prama. Second is Pramata. Third is Pramanam. Fourth is Prameyam. Prama is real knowledge. True, unalloyed, blemishless knowledge is Prama. That person who is a recipient of the Prama, the one in whom the knowledge settles, is called Pramata. But how will the knowledge come to us? It has to come through a medium. That source of knowledge is called Pramanam. Through that Pramanam, you realize the object of your knowledge, that is Prameyam. So the problem is not with Prama, we have knowledge. The problem is not with Pramata. There are so many people who aspire for that Prama, who are Pramatas. The problem comes with us in understanding Pramanam, the books. For that, what happens? Sanatana Dharma, in its core objective, gives a lot of space for people to question. There is no doubt. So the question will also survive and will get the answer, and the person who is asked the question will also survive. So there are 2 aspects to it. You can ask and you can survive. Now this loophole should not be misused by many. That is why Krishna says, Tadvidbhiv pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha Arjuna. You've been asking me questions, and look at the place where he asks. See, all these days he was extremely vigilant about fighting the Kauravas. But when he reaches the battlefield, he says, Krishna, Ratham sthapaya, go keep the chariot in the middle of the field. And then Krishna does it, whatever he says, and then he asks a question. What is his question? Should I fight the people who are standing opposite me or not? They are all blood relatives. Yen udambil vodum rattamum, avargal udambil vodum rattamum ondrallava. Appadi konjam korella maati pesipidnom. Sumara indha mari pesina yarum kekka So konjam eldams mari pesittom vechungo. Jammanu kaadula podum. So he says this blood and that blood is the same. Now Krishna should have simply invoked Narasimhavataram and said, look into my eyes and start fighting. Satapatala bhishane sarabhasa attahasodbate. He didn't do that. He started explaining Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Arjuna forgot what he asked. நம்ம என்ன கேட்டோம், இவர் என்ன சொல்றார்? So 700 shlokas. Then Arjuna said, finally, I should fight, right? I will do. See, the beauty is, even there it is Arjuna uvacha, Parvati uvacha, Arjuna uvacha. Srimad Ramayanam is a beautiful conversation between Valmiki Maharishi and Narada. Srimad Bhagavatam is a conversation between Shuka Brahmam and Parikshit. Sri Mahabharatam is a conversation between Vaishampayana and Janamejaya. Vishnu Puranam is a conversation between Maitreya and Parashara Maharshi. Vishnu Sahasranamam is a set of questions asked by Yudhishthira. Kime ekam daivatam loke, kim vapyekam parayanam, stuvantakam kamarchantaha. 6 questions, Shat Prashni he asks. And the answers come in the form of the compendium of 1000 names, which is Vishnu Sahasranamam given by Bhishmacharya, that too where? On the bed of arrows. See, my grandmother used to be excellent in making a South Indian delicacy. It is called Molagu Korambu. Telugu bhashalo emi ani maaku telidu. Adu pappu laga undi. Ledante pappu ledu. Avladha. Ee pappu na idu vera edavadhu artham purinjukupora. Idu, so this is that which is mixed with hot rice. Okay, now I'll get back to the recipe. So it's amazing. And whenever you have a long travel, generally people in traditional families end up making this delicacy. So my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was extremely good at it. Leaving all those days where she was suffering from good health, when she chooses to be in the ICU, I go and ask her, please tell me the recipe of Molagu Korambu. When Bhishmacharya is the one who is the overlived surviving Dumbledore of those days, Arjuna managed to miss all those days, and when he was on the bed of arrows, he ended up asking those questions. So Vishnu Sahasranamam is a set of questions and answers. Same is the case with Bhagavad Gita. Every scripture that we have has questions and answers. So today, with respect to Pramanam, we have a lot of questions that come in the minds of especially the Gen Z. I don't know what is the generation after that. All the parents, grandparents, some of them, they are extremely worried. They say, such questions are asked and we don't have answers to those questions. Some of them take pride in telling, Nanna kelvi kekkarar, badile theriyala, அப்படிங்கறாரு, சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. So, list of questions. Many. See, you can keep ticking those portions where you also have felt these questions are valid. Why did Dasharatha perform Putra Kameshti? Why did he desire sons and not daughters? Alia Bhatt asks. Ilya, aap bolte ho beti bachao beti padhao. Why he wanted only beta, not beti? Why it is Putra Kameshti? Second, when as per the traditional sources, Rama was married at the age of 12, Sita was married at the age of 6. This is what we have been told by our Purvacharyas. There is no doubt there. Now, why did she get married? So, see, this is where we need to read scripture to better ourselves as a Jivatma. We'll apply all the current day rules then. Second. Third, did Rama check with Urmila if it was fine to take Lakshmana to the forest? See, she was happy. Urmilakku ivar aatha vittu porare. Sandoshama irundha. Edukku? Did you check with Urmila? That has to go to a baritone when you ask the question. Next, as they went to the forest, why did Lakshmana humiliate Shurpanaka? He shouldn't have done that. What can I do? So all these questions will come. Next comes Agni Pariksha. See, the moment we all think, the premise itself is Sita is a very weak woman. She needs somebody to fight as an advocate. Then we are wrong. Sita is very bold. If you look into the Moola Ramayanam, Valmiki Ramayanam, and Rama says you don't have to come, she says, Kim tvamanyata vaidehaha pitame mithilaadipaha ramajamataram prapya striyam purusha vigraham. It is a grave mistake for my father, the king of Mithila, to have gotten me married to a man who's in the disguise, a woman in the disguise of a man. Then Rama says, come with me. Extremely well spoken. She doesn't need an advocate. That is why it is very important to understand the circumstances that led to Agni Pariksha. Even before she was abducted, when they heard the first AI trained voice, because that Maricha cried in the voice of Rama, right? Ha Site, ha Lakshmana. Sita said, Lakshman, go, jao, jaake dekho. Oh, she used to speak Hindi. See, they didn't have this concept of t-shirt, Hindi theriyade and all of that. They would have spoken. So, yeah. So, she said, Lakshman jaake dekho. Then Lakshman said, see Mata, you have been living with Rama for so many years together. Nothing would have struck him. You know he's asahaya shura, anapaya sahasa. But then she says, even if I've commanded and you're not going, it simply means that you've been waiting for this long to initiate a relationship with me. There are 3 verses in Aranyakandam. This comes as a trishulam that is struck in a smelting furnace and strikes the ear cords of Lakshmana. Sapatnima suruchiche karnashulamaina matanu. Tyagaraja Swami, Pancharatna Kirtanamulo Chaptunna Tarvai, Karnashulamaina matu. The words that were like trident. Then Lakshmana leaves that place, he sheds tears and goes. That is when Rama recognizes, towards the end of Yuddha Kandam, though she is my beloved, though she is my Ardhangini, she is my Sahadharmacharini, as an administrator, if someone hurts the other person without any facts, maligns the character, she should be taught a lesson. And up to those rules, he puts the same blame on Sita, and then the Agni Pariksha happens. So Agni Pariksha is not a test of Sita's chastity, Pativratyam. Please read, because there is a Dehali Deepa Nyayam which he states in Srimad Ramayana. So all these questions. Now shift focus to Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam focus is very simple. How did Draupadi marry so many men at one point in time? Right? Second, why did Krishna marry so many women? Is it right? When I go on a December 31st night to have some fun time, my mother stops. Whereas Krishna danced in the middle of the night. We all celebrate that Rasa Krida. Why? All these questions come. Now, when these questions come, my earnest request is, how do we handle those questions? Why am I bringing all these questions? Is now, my only worry is, this 5 minutes that I've spoken, right? This will become viral. Now they won't listen for the reply that I give. See, it is very, very important that we let people ask questions. If you have these questions, feel free to ask. But Krishna says, Tadvidhif pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Through a sadacharya, you can get the quintessential knowledge, answers to all these questions. All these questions have been answered in the famed commentaries to the original works of Srimad Ramayanam, Sri Mahabharatam, by Maheshwara Tirtha, Kaushika Govindaraja, by Tilaka. All these acharyas have answered. But the problem is, most of these commentaries are in Samskrita Bhasha. And today, the biggest challenge that we face today is our knowledge of Sanskritam is very low or very little. How do we bridge this gap? This is where I would urge a lot of the youngsters to reach out to the traditional mathas like Sringeri, Kanchi, Ahobilam, Andavanashramam, Madhva Sampradaya mathas, to learn the nuances of these granthas and take it across the cities. Because expecting the entire population to now master Sanskritam and then learn, it is a bit tough. But here comes another problem. The moment I say these works are in Sanskritam, you have to listen. This portion will be mishandled by a few people who have been fighting for the language cause. Right now there is always a debate. Bhasha Geetif Prashasta Bhagavati Vachanat Rajavachopacharat, says Vedanta Deshika. Language be any. The content of what you speak and whom you extol is what is more important. There is no bhasha which is called a superior bhasha. There is no bhasha which is called an inferior bhasha. Bhasha Geetif Prashasta. Learn all languages. I do not know. I'm not going to talk about the new education policy. What are its benefits? That is not my role. As a Pravachanakarta, my only request to the all of you, cutting across ages, communities, gender, is, with respect to Sanatana Dharma, with respect to Hindu Matam, learning as many languages is only going to open your doors for Brahmanubhavam. If you learn Marathi, the abhangs of Tukaram, Namdev, Jnaneshwar is like a beautiful fruit that is dipped in amritam that comes to your hands, your palm. When you learn Tamil, the Ra of Tamil, that's very important. When you learn the Ra of Tamil along with its nuances, I am sure you will relish the verses of the Alvars and the Nayanmar. All of them have sung with such great devotion. I know it is, how many of you can't speak Tamil? Let this video get circulated. I would urge all of you to learn Tamil and Sanskritam. Because this is called Ubhaya Vedantam. You have to learn both these languages to get the nuances of the language. So learn Marathi, learn Kannada, learn Telugu. Do not listen to those people who keep fighting in the name of languages. This is a big disservice that they do. Do not fall into this trap. All our Purvacharyas were polyglots, and if you were a polyglot, you were celebrated, you were rewarded. Don't we know that Sri Narasimha Rao, who hails from this Telugu-speaking region, the erstwhile Prime Minister, was very well adept in so many languages. We are very proud. Vedanta Deshika and Sankalpa Suryodayam says 750 years back, I know 8 languages. This has been that land. So I do not know what monetary benefit it is going to give, how it will help. That is not my concern. In Bhakti, it is very important to learn languages. That is why traditionally, especially, a Karnataka Sangeeta, Shastriya Sangeeta concert will have kritis of all languages. You will have Tyagaraja compositions. Yes, the irony is, very many compositions are in beautiful Telugu. Most of the musicians are Tamil speaking. So we will not know where to split. There is a problem there. That is why Bhasha Jnanam is very important, because when you start understanding Telugu as a Bhasha, I am not praising this language just because I am in Secunderabad. Wherever I go, I am extremely proud of such a beautiful language called Telugu. Because it feels as if every word of this language has been dipped in Madhuram and has been strung together. Bharatiyar, the Tamil poet, says, Sundara Telunginil Paatti Sait. Beautiful. Tyagaraja, Kshetraya, Annamacharya, Potanna's verses, Amukta Malyada, so many works that we have bequeathed are in Telugu. So Telugu Bhasha is so beautiful. Tamil, Kannada. So every language. So do not fall into this trap, because our Acharyas have never stated that one language is inferior, because they will try to spin this narrative. That you think Sanskritam is a Deva Bhasha, you think Sanskritam is superior. Just because it's called Deva Bhasha, it doesn't mean it is superior. Sura, Nara, Khaga, Go, Bhogi, Gandharva, Daityaihi, we say in Sahasranama Purvangam. All these who are creations, Sura, Nara, Khaga, Go, Bhogi, Gandharva, Daityaihi, they all form an integral part of Bhagavan Swarupam. Chitram Ram, Ramyatetam, Tribhuvana Vapusham, Vishnumisham Namami. So there is no one language which is superior or inferior. Learn as many languages. Now that I have touched Carnatic music, in the last 15-20 years, there has been a very, very orchestrated attack to separate Shastriya Sangeetam from Shastram and Bhakti. It is an irony. Sanatana Dharma says at one point in time, just through striking the right nadam, you can get moksham. It is called Nadopasana. Nada Sudharasa. Nada Tanumanisham. So many kritis that invoke nadam. It is called Shadjam. The first swara gives rise to the next set of 6 swaras. Every kriti of all our acharyas invoke an Ishta Devata. It is a namaskaram, it is a sadhana. And in the last 15 years, this is a very, very step-by-step made narrative. How will the narrative begin? All the acharyas previously used to do a Ishta Devata namaskaram and they used to sing. The first narrative will be, see, I don't think Kamboji is related to Sanatana Dharma alone. It's an emotion. First they will tell you, then you will nod your head. then they'll say kamas and everything. It's just an expression, you know. And you know, I still remember in one of my classes, scintillate, scintillate, you minuscule asteroid in the vast expanse of the splendid sky. This is twinkle, twinkle, little star. Okay, so when you use such words and with that tone and with that accent, you know, people will say and they'll start nodding their head. So now Kamboji has been separated from Shastriya Sangeetam. Second, the Vagekara's kriti will be separated. They'll say Tyagaraja celebrated that inner energy. Slowly Paramatma will become energy, momentum, mass, acceleration. Because you can't use, when you use words like Paramatma and Bhagavan, you're very low. You have to use words like that energy, that mass, that momentum, all we have missed in our physics lessons, we have to do it here. Then that energy has to be celebrated. So Rama has been replaced with the word energy. Then slowly they'll say, why should we use the same tune to celebrate Rama? We can use that to celebrate the one who garlanded Rama with the chappal mala. That will be the third narrative. This will slowly take away the bhakti element, whereas Tyagaraja is very clear. Sangeeta jnanamu bhakti vina. Sanmargamu galade. You'll be technically right. You may get some titles. But it doesn't really translate into sincerity towards that Vagekara nor to that Ishtadevata. So, if at all, there'll be many practitioners of Shastriya Sangeetam and Natyam. Natya is no different. Natya will also be a part of that. Please, when your children are learning these art forms, when your grandchildren are going to learn or already learning these art forms, please tell them. If they don't believe, let them not learn. It's okay. Just because you don't learn Shastriya Sangeetam, you're not excommunicated or you're nowhere a low life. You've just chosen not to learn. But when you've chosen to learn Shastriya Sangeetam, please do not entertain statements like, I don't believe in Rama. Rama is, don't. This is wrong. This is the biggest injustice. Shastriya Sangeetam or Natyam is a part of Sanatana Dharma. Do not be supportive of those actions which say that this is different, this is an art form, this is an emotion. It can be an art form. But in Shastriya Sangeetam, Bhakti is an essential element. This is very important. Next, after this Bhasha Jnanam has come, next, we have to deal with writing with no intent to hurt any author, any writer. Somehow we have mastered the art in the last 20 years to look at Ramayana from Ravana's perspective. I fail to understand. Ravana, he will only justify abduction. He will say, what I've done is right. Why should you look through the eyes of Ravana? Somehow, again, I'm not hurting any author. They have the right to express. But this is going to cause extreme damage. See, let's take this one character called Karna. I've been telling in all my lectures. We have made a hero out of him. He has lost 14 yuddhas in Sri Mahabharatam. 14. South Africa, Mari finals kundru thotu bidwa. And he is the one who suggests, who tells Shakuni and Duryodhana, when Draupadi, who has been dragged to the Sabha Mantapam, Vivastratam, how does it matter if she stays with the piece of cloth or without? Who gives? Our Karna, Surya Putra Karan. Karan hi deta hai, wo idea. But today we have come to a situation where Ullatil Nalla Ullam Abdina Mami Adara Atla Ukandandu. Karna of Sri Mahabharatam, if you read the work, is a very jealous person. He may have been generous, but he was very jealous. There are 3-4 very strong instances till Karna Parva that suggests he was very jealous. He was not that great a warrior that he was supposed to be. Yes, he was generous. Yes, during his early days, he did have sufferings. He went through sufferings. So we need to accept the character as is, rather than making them a victim, then making a hero out of that victim. All this needs to be avoided. Next, when it comes to the other aspect of certain other questions, when it comes to Sanatana Dharma, Krishna becomes a major topic of discussion because there is one instance in Mahabharatam when this little boy who has been protected by Krishna is born to Uttara. There is absolutely no movement in the newly born child. The mother is extremely worried if the child is living or dead. That is when an ethereal voice, an Ashariri Vakyam says, if a person who has observed brahmacharyam, if a person who has spoken only the truth, you have to suffice both the conditions. If he or she touches this child shall come back to life. Now there were many rishis who were gathered in that very spot and they were worried. See, if they touch and it doesn't come back to life, then there is a problem. So they said, today is Chitra Purnami. Today my vow is not to touch. The only person who was left in that huge crowd was Krishna. Two conditions. He should have been a brahmacharyam. He should have practiced brahmacharyam. And he must have spoken only the truth. Malai piranda nambiyai maleshayum manalanai yela poigal uraipanai inge poda kandire, says Andal. If at all you make a laundry list of all lies that can be uttered by a person, Krishna will tick all. Yela poigal uraipanai. What did he practice brahmacharyam? Krishna's house, it was ration book. Rukmani Krishnan, Satyabhama Krishnan, everybody, if they were in Tamil Nadu, they'll get 1,000 rupees and Urugada, Vellamum. How is he practicing brahmacharyam? But you know what Krishna does? He takes the child onto his hands and he says, Yadime brahmacharyam syat satyam chamavyahatam yena jivatu balakaha. If I have practiced brahmacharyam and if I have spoken only the truth, let this boy come back to life. It was a pariksha that this child gave to Krishna. Parikshate parikshit. He gave pariksha to Krishna, he was parikshit. So this boy survived. How? Because there is a nuance in Shastram. Even if you are a grihastha, you are married with family, with children, on certain days that the Shastra says refrain from a relationship, if you observe those days, then you still practice brahmacharyam despite being a grihastha. And when he said that I have spoken only the truth, what is the big thing that we all know? The next door, Komalam Mami and Pankajam Mami came and said, you have stolen my butter. And Krishna said, I have not stolen Pankajam Mami's butter. Correct. Because Pankajam Mami is his creation. Pankajam Mami's backyard is his creation. The cow is his creation. The one who has made the cow lactate is him. The one who has converted the milk to curds is him. The one who has the form of the butter is him. So he didn't steal Komalam Mami's butter. So he didn't lie. So this is the explanation given by the commentator. Yadime brahmacharyam syat satyam chamavyahatam yena jivatu balakaha. Let this boy come back to life. It is very important for us to keep listening. Shravanam. If at all there is one takeaway point that you want to note. Shravanam. Listen as much as possible. Listening. Shravanam. There is nothing that can equal Shravanam. So many acharyas. You take a language, Telugu Bhashalo, you have got the great Chaganti Kotishwar Rao Garu, Samavedam, Shanmukha Sharma. So many acharyas from the days of Sri Bhashyam, Appalacharyulu. What great Mahans this land has produced. How beautifully they speak. If at all I can understand little Telugu and if at all I can speak Telugu, it is just because I've been listening to them. Such beautiful is the language and so beautiful are their lectures. Listen. If you are a Tamil speaking Astika, you've got plenty of options. Brahmashri Sundar Kumar Anna, my Acharya Karunakar Acharya, from the days of Sengalipuram Anantarama Dikshitar. So many Acharyas have spoken. Listen. Listening you can never substitute because Shravanam is very important. When Prahlada goes to the ashramam of Shanda and Amarka and returns, his father asks, because the teacher says, I cannot handle your son anymore. We wanted to teach him Hiranyakashipu Ashtottara Shatanama Avali. Kashyapaputraya namaha, Hiranyakashapave namaha, Loka Dukkhakarana namaha. All this we want to do. But this boy ended up converting all the existing boys there. Those boys started feeling that he was a better tutor than us. So we wanted to give thanks with returns. They come and give back Prahlada. The father, Hiranyakashipu, was that way good. He said, see, I had invested so much money in your education. What did you learn till now? The boy says, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Marchanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam, Iti Pumsar Pitar Vishnor, Bhaktische, Navalakshana. Father, I heard the first aspect of pristine Bhakti is Shravanam, listening. How should the art of speaking about Rama mean? Tyagaraja says, when you listen to Ramayanam, you should get goosebumps, it seems. Romanchamane Ghana Kanchukamu Rama Bhaktudanu Mudra Billayu Ramanama Mane Romanchamane. You should get goosebumps. When someone says Rama, that second you should have tears. Bashpavari Paripurna Lochanam. That is the extent to which bhakti should go within us. Shravanam, no substitute for Shravanam. And where should Shravanam begin? If there are prospect parents here, grandparents who are expecting grandchildren, Garbha Shriman, Jayamanam hi Purusham Yampashyen Madhusudanaha. It should begin in the Garbha Kalam. Mothers, expecting mothers, இல்ல பிள்ளைக்கு 20 வயசு ஆயிடுத்து என்ன பண்றது ஒண்ணும் பண்ண முடியாது. இப்போ திருப்பி கர்ப்பத்துக்குள்ளே போவரவர். அதனால இருந்துட்டான்னு வச்சுங்க தப்பி தவறி. Then Garbha Shriman Jayamanam hi Purusham. Expecting mothers should keep listening because Shastram says Jayamanam hi Purusham Yampashyen Madhusudanaha. Satvikaha Satu Vigneyaha Savai Mokshartha Chintakaha. It is only the one who would have listened to lines of Mahabharatam and Ramayanam when he or she was in their mother's womb will later have the Saubhagyam to be a part of this beautiful festival every year. We are all Garbha Shrimans. Our mothers would have surely listened to Sahasranamam or Ramayanam one day. Shravanam. There is no substitute for Shravanam. Then, Vayinal Padi, Kirtanam. Whatever we listen, we need to spread the word. This is very important. I request in all my traditional pravachanams, when astikas come, you note down certain points. Take 4 points, takeaways from the lecture. 4 points. Type it out in WhatsApp. And WhatsApp, like the messengers, acharyas in those days, it will take to your children, your grandchildren, and they may read. How will you know they have read? Neelato yatamadhyastha vidyullekeva bhaswara. It turns blue, right? You will know. So surely you will know. So please, whatever today you have listened, imagine, take those 2 points, share that on WhatsApp. It is very important that every astika becomes a dharma pracharaka. Everyone is a dharma pracharaka here. Never ever outsource your swadharma to others. Aalayittu andi toluvado. 1000 years back, this is a Tamil line, I will translate. 1000 years back, the commentator says, Aalayittu andi toluvado. Andi toluvado means doing sandhya vandanam, arghya pradhanam. Aalayittu. It seems you will hire one person, you will say, I'll pay you 20 rupees, do sandhya vandanam on my behalf. Aalayittu andi toluvado. You have to do. You are a dharma pracharaka. Maybe some of you may feel you are not able to articulate so well speaking. Write it down. If you are good in writing articles, please write articles in leading dailies. We need support. Do not outsource it to a select few. It is wrong. We have to listen. We have to take the message. If you have 4 points, you tell this way. Only if you read the messages that I send every day, you can partake in my property. See, the irony is, I'll be very blunt, that situation should change when elderly parents, they attain siddhi, Vaikuntha Prapti. Immediately, I'll get a mail. Swami, my parents lines. They heard you in Coimbatore, all this. I am their daughter. I have come to Bharata Desham. My parents have attained Vaikuntha Prapti. We performed all the Antyeshti. There was a beautiful Kashimala, 32 sovereigns that we have split amongst the daughters. There was a plot for my father that we have gotten. Ramayana Pustakam is there that we wanted to give it to you. This is the state. Now imagine my problem. I give 250 lectures a year. Every day I'll get a shawl like this. With the shawls that I have, today if Draupadi cries for help, I will give. Krishna kuda na poiduve. Shawl chala kudupe. See, the irony is, parents should also make sure that your children, I'm not asking you to coax them, but don't get into this habit of, I don't want to interfere in their personal space. Let them decide. They will not decide. You tell them clearly that our Ishta Devata, Kula Devata is this. You have to go once a year to this temple. This is nothing wrong. If parents don't say this, oh, personal space, I don't know where we have got. See, I'm not that old. I still don't remember 20 years back these words like personal space, let's give that space to them, nothing. Suddenly this personal space has come. When they partake in your property, why should they leave the Ramayana Pustakam behind? It is very important. And one more thing. These are all subtle things in Kirtanam. I'm sure there are elderly people here. Keep your puja room as simple as possible. Don't complicate it for your children as well. 108 photos. 250 vigrahams. Why? See, today we get portraits so easily. 150, 200 years before, where were there so many paintings? People were just having a simple aradhanam every day. Keep your aradhanam very simple and pristine. Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnoho Smaranam, thinking of Bhagavan, Pada Sevanam. See, we have come to that extent where, besides participating in or rendering discourses, traditional discourses, pravachanams, upanyasams, the way we call it in Tamil, Sorpurivu, when I am a part of these public events, if there is a great acharya or a great person, elderly person, it's a habit in us, our acharyas have said, you have to fall at their feet. I am told in many of the events by the organizers, don't fall, sir, it will give a wrong notion. Because today we have started construing falling at somebody else's feet as being slave. Pada Sevanam, when Rajasuya Yajnam was being conducted by Yudhishthira in Indraprastha, Krishna was asked, what work will you want to do? Krishna said, whoever comes to your house, I shall fall at their feet and do Pada Sevanam. Krishna did it. Jagadacharya did it. Pada Sevanam. Archanam. Simple aspect. When I spoke about Pramanam, when Prameyam comes, the object of reference, we go to a Devasthanam. We do Archana. And in the last 20 years, you buy that 20 rupee, 30 rupee Archana ticket and you go. The priest, the Vadyar there, the Purohita, will ask you for your nakshatra, you will go. Not 1 second our concentration is on that Archana. Prakrityai namaha, vikrityai namaha, sarva bhuta hita pradayai namaha. We don't know what happens. Bhuvaneshwaryai namaha. Abdin mudichutarnu artham. What happened in Naduvila konja pakkam kaanum Vijay Sethupathi dhaan kekkanum. What happened in between? When we go to a Devasthanam, we should have the thought that we are going to the Asthanam of Paramatma. We should be well prepared for that. If the temple says this is the dress code, you have to follow. Don't file cases as says there are so many. Veshti edu kattikanu. Pogade. So, our thought, of course, related to temple, I have to tell you one question that Gen Z will ask. You keep telling that God is everywhere. He is omniscient and omnipresent. So, why should I go to a temple? See, whichever tone you ask, the answer is very simple. Okay. When you ride a bicycle, there is air in that tube. Suddenly, one day you realize that the bicycle is not working well because there is no air in the tube. Now you are telling, hey Vayu! You are looking at Vayu. Vayu! You are there everywhere. Get inside my tube, it won't go. You need a pump, your manual process to bring that Vayu into the tube. Agama Shastram says, though Bhagavan is omniscient, omnipresent, Sarva Shakti, he is there everywhere. Prahlada Trailokyame Tadakilam. Narasimha Garbham Prahlada proved this, he exemplified this, all this is true. But Agama Shastram says, we as primitive mortals and Jivatmas do not have the ability to realize that Paramatma who is Sarva Vyapin everywhere within us. So thereby we request Veda mantras to kindly request Bhagavan who is Sarva Vyapi to get inside that particular Murti. So temple worship is to realize our disadvantage. It doesn't mean Bhagavan is conditioned there. Attached to this, there will be, some research scholars. During the Vedic times, there was no such worship of deities. It came only during Ramayana times. No. Clearly, Vedam says, Apranaghat sarvayeva suvarnaha hiranya smashruhu hiranya keshaha tasya yatha kapyasam pundarikam eva makshini. It describes the form of Bhagavan head to toe. Keshadipadam. Alvar says, Ponnivar meni Maradagattin Pungilam Shodi Agalattaram Minnivar Vayil Nal Vedam Vodum Vediyar Vanavaravar Tori Ennayum Noki and Algulum Noki Endelang Kungayum Nokagindra. Clearly there is a reference. Ramayana says when Rama was asked to go on a sojourn to the forest for 14 years, the residents of Ayodhya went to different temples. There is a reference. Again, do not fall into the aspect that temples were not present, it's a new creation, it tries, people, I will do it from the same place itself. Why should we fight for temples? God is there everywhere. Yeah. All this is easily wrong. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. In the Tamil channels, they will begin with the word Vanakkam. I say Namaskaram, Vanakkam. Immediately, Parthirgala, Vanakkam என்று கூறவில்லை, இவர் நமஸ்காரம் என்று கூறுகிறார். Because namaskaram has a deeper meaning. Mama is mine. Na mama, this Atma is not mine. It is that of Paramatma. Nama Shabdeti. Along with that Namaha, you do that particular mudra, you do Namaskaram, Anjalim, Parama Mudra, Kshipram Deva, Prasadini. There is a deeper meaning, that's all. There is nothing, no grudge for the word Vanakkam. There is no special love for the word Namaskaram. This word has a deeper meaning. So, Namaskaram, who teaches this Namaskaram? WhatsApp. Right? If you type the word thanks, immediately those two hands come. You can choose that hand color also. Vandanam Dasyam. Again, this word has been misconstrued. Shastram says, Jivatma is subservient to Paramatma. Akinchit karasya seshatvo anupapattihi. Dasyam. Sakhyam. Sakhyam, friendship. Atma Nivedanam. Again, Bhakti is beautiful, pristine. In the last 20 years, I'm sure there are elderly people here. Suddenly there is a commercialization of Dharma. You do this, you get that. Karma theory doesn't work that way. Only through sufferings we can wash our karma. Until and unless we realize this, we will fall into the trap. Of course, you can do Abhishekam to Bhagavan. Why? Because you enjoy seeing the Abhishekam. You can do Archana. Why? Shastram doesn't state that if you do this alone, you will get this. Extreme concentration on Pariharam should come down. Jyotishya Shastram is an Angam of Sanatana Dharma. No doubt, it is one of the Angas. But every morning looking to Kumbha Rashi and Meena Rashi is going to spoil us. See, do your Swadharma first. If you have been asked to do Sandhya Vandanam, do that. Whatever comes, you have to bear. This is dharmic knowledge. But the moment I say this, 50 people will walk away. I have to tell, Kumbha Rashi, today your lucky number is 7. So, why bring that down? Now, when I've spoken about all of this, there is also another aspect that we need to take cognizance of. Holier than thou attitude. Suppose a youngster, a young boy, he is doing some Ramanama. What should we do? We should say, very good, you're doing so well. Fine, wear a dhoti and say it. He will wear a dhoti next day. You have not worn where is your Brahma Mudichu? Put it properly. By the time we try correcting that boy becomes, he will join one of the people in the Chennai region. Slowly we are making, see, it is very important that you do your Swadharma. Don't keep finding faults in somebody else's practice. That is very important, because that child, out of great peer pressure, is trying to get out and trying to do whatever little he or she can. Encourage. That encouragement will surely go a long way. Suppose there are youngsters coming for my discourse. What is my duty? To say what is there in Ramayana, whatever Purvacharyas have said. Now I start commenting about the hair of the woman. I start commenting about the dress of the youngsters. Wrong. And if at all you wish to convey for a nice purpose, say it in a way that it doesn't hurt the other person. What you say and how you say both matter. Next, we have this other problem. I wouldn't say a problem, a challenge. Sanatana Dharma has 3 big branches in a tree. One is Shaivam, second is Vaishnavam, third is largely Shaktam. The other Kaumaram, Ganapatyam will come within these branches. Each of these are very well grown branches of the tree. They have their own set of scriptures, all rooted in Vedas. There is no doubt. But though we practice, I may practice Vaishnavam, and other Astika may practice Shaivam. Let us go in our paths without belittling the other. It is very important to understand there are wonderful occasions in our Puranas and in our Agamas where there is a beautiful amalgamation, where both Vaishnavam and Shaivam come together. You go to Chidambara Kshetram, one place you stand. You can see Govindaraja, the other place is Nataraja. When you read Srimad Ramayanam, Apara, Paravara, Parikha, Parivrita, Parapura, Parasvita, Davadahana, Javana, Pavana, Bhava, Kapivara, Parishvanga Bhavita, Sarvasvadana, says Vedanta Deshika. In Sundarakandam, when Hanuman returns from Lanka, burning certain parts of Lanka, Valmiki says he burnt Lanka like how Mahadeva burnt Tripurantaka. In a work that has Narayana as Rama, you have a reference to Shiva. So we need to learn to respect each other's path. Same is the case with 3 branches, Advaitam, Visishta Advaitam and Dvaitam. Each of the Acharyas, Adi Shankara, Bhagavad Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, who came from 3 neighboring states at different points in time, have worked very hard to bring in and cherish the roots of Sanatana Dharma. No one Acharya is greater than the other. If we follow one particular Acharya, that Acharya's Paddhati we have to follow without belittling the other Acharya. See, this widely spread tree of Sanatana Dharma with Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Advaitam, Visishtadvaitam, Dvaitam is what will give us shade. This sudden love for amalgamation, bringing all of them together like GST. Why can't we have one book, sir, one tree? Then you will have one big coconut tree without any shade. It has to be a largely grown tree. When Paramacharya, the great sage of Kanchi, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati was asked, why do we have so many matams? Paramacharya beautifully said, if you're a farmer and you till your land and you sow seeds, you will not sow all your seeds in one place. You'll just spread them out. Out of 100 seeds, 50 will germinate, 50 will not. Similarly are these paths. Do not ever think of bringing all of them together. The followers can start respecting each other. Don't belittle. So that is another aspect. Now, with respect to this holier than thou attitude, my only request is, do not ever keep belittling the future generations. That's very important. They are so important to us that even speakers like us, who are pravachanakartas, we have to, I have to watch Never Have I Ever 4th season to relate to Devi Vishwakumar. Because I have to bring references that they can understand. Puranas and Itihasas, the beauty is only unless and until they are relatable to the current day, it will never impress the children. So it's very important that we bring in that aspect. And every part of Sanatana Dharma is extremely important. Every language is important. Every jati is important. And finally, doing swadharma. Whatever you've been practicing, pitrikarma, which is shraddham for your ancestors, going to your ishtadevata, kuladevata, doing your swadharma is very important, because every person is a pracharaka in Sanatana Dharma. My only request to all of you present is, when we practice swadharma in a way which is bringing us humility in us, surely you will become the role model for others. Tad acharati sreshtaha, says Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So you will become the person who's a role model. So this stage has been of a great inspiration to speakers like us, and I'm extremely indebted to this festival for giving me the space. In a traditional South Indian food, you have, I'm sure there'll be astikas of Uttara Bharatam as well. You must have come across, there is a certain delicacy called Kolambu. So that is the first one that comes in the list. Then when you need clarity, Paramacharya used to state, after Kolambu comes rasam. And then comes the sweet. And then comes the curd rice. The sweet is the payasam. Curd rice is curd rice. Now, Masrila Kabalam. Now, the beauty is, Ramayanam begins with payasam. Srimad Bhagavatam has curd rice. Bibhradvenum jatarapataya shringavetye chakakshe vamepano Masrila Kabalam tatphalam angulishu, says Shukabrahmam in Srimad Bhagavatam. My part of the speech was like Kolambu and rasam. You will now be served with payasam and Masrila Kabalam by a great human being, an astika, who through his various activities does his little kinchitkaram for dharma. I'm extremely proud to have Shri Sai Deepak in this forum, and there are very many friends of mine, very many family members who keep waiting for his next video. He's such a beautiful speaker, and more than being a speaker, he makes a lot of us think. That is very important. We all become thinkers. Of course, we have to execute it later. So, I'm extremely proud, because when Krishna entered Mathura, what is the biggest happiness that the citizens of Mathura had? They said, our person is back to our town. So, he's an asset of your Bhagya Nagaram, and I would love the MC to introduce Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Namaskaram.
As told in Itihasas and by Alvas, was well quoted and strongly presented by Sri Dushyan Sridhar. Our heartfelt thanks to him. Now, we invite Sri Sai Deepak Avarhal to share his thoughts with us on Sanatana Dharma. Thank you.
Participate in this event. I think he's been after me for the last 2 years. The same way that we are after judges for dates. So thank you. Thanks to his kind invitation, I've managed to hear such a fantastic speech by Dushyan Sridhar. A huge round of applause for what he's just done. That it is possible for people who subscribe to tradition to straddle the worlds of tradition and modernity, I think he is an example of it. Where he's able to reach out to audiences of different shades and hues, and he is able to serve them swadanusar, depending on what they can consume. And I say this with the deepest of humility. He has not made it easy for me to follow his act today. So I was actually racking my brains as to what am I supposed to speak on, especially on sriramanavami, because a lot of things have been going on, and I'm sure people have been following the recent unsavory developments in the state of Tamil Nadu, the kind of dialogues and the kind of statements that have been issued with respect to Sanatana Dharma. I'll start with a small but pertinent clarification, and then I'll proceed to what I have to share. With no disrespect to people who are activists or who operate in the mold of activists, I must say that I am not an activist and I will never be one. I am not a social activist under any circumstances. I am a mercenary, ruthless, commercial litigator, and I will die one. Who also hopes to contribute to his dharmic leanings to the best of his professional capabilities without compromising on his professional standing for two reasons. The forum that I operate in requires me to operate in the mold of a litigator first and not a Hindu first. That is unfortunately my professional reality. So if I have to be taken seriously by the forum in which I practice and my core competence being litigation, I must be a lawyer's lawyer first before I become a Hindu. Unfortunately, that is my situation. Over the last 1.5 to 2 years, I have taken a serious backseat in delivering public lectures or in being part of public engagements for multiple reasons. One, I did not want to launch the third book for the reason that I didn't want people to write me off as a litigator. Two, I had to secure a few professional goals to take Gandivam in my hand before I can continue my work. That had to happen. Because I am tired of asking Hindus and Hindu moneybags to start contributing to Hindu causes, I thought I might as well make a beginning and in the process perhaps present a workable model for people to follow. Because not everybody can be a Dushyan Sridhar who chooses to make this a full-time job. So if I have to reach out to the youngsters of my generation and the next generation, I have to present a model which strikes a balance between dharma and artha at the same time. 4, I was beginning to wonder whether these engagements have borne any kind of fruit. I was actually questioning the validity or the utility of it, because I genuinely felt they were futile for multiple reasons. Because each time you go to these platforms, the one thing that it does is that it starts creating a cult around you. And the focus moves away from the message to the messenger. But the messenger is equally important, because at the end of the day, people need an embodiment or a personification of the message in order for them to relate to the message in the first place. So the messenger is equally important. I don't deny that whatsoever. But as much as I say this without any sense of false modesty, because I'm anything but a modest or humble person, is that personality cults will be the end of Sanatana Dharma if we do not focus on the message that is being presented and act on it. One of the best things that has happened today through Dushyan Sridhar is that he has managed to straddle the heights of esoterica in terms of philosophical thought and has reduced it to very specific takeaways that you can follow and take back to your children, which is the audience, which is the battleground. Take it from me when I say this. The battleground is not the people in their 30s or 40s. The battleground is the next generation. And that's the crucial battleground that all of us are fighting for, because that headspace is the one that is most muddled and confused and brainwashed, with absolutely no access to resources which they can trust. And while they may be your children, the reality of their lives is peer pressure. The reality of their lives is acceptance in their circles. So when people ask me, why do you feel the need to speak in English if your fundamental message is that of decolonization? Because I'm trying to hope to bring them from pasta to idli through English and gradually pull them in this particular direction, so that I say, you've heard me, now hear Dushyan Sridhar. I'll draw from some of the things that he's presented, because the advantage of going second after someone like him is that he presents a wealth of, let's say, foundational materials which I can use as building blocks for my talk. I'll touch a slightly sensitive topic, and I'm assuming because this happens to be an adult audience, you've come here with the assumed risk of being offended. One of the best points that Sridhar made, how would you prefer to be addressed? Dushyanth Sridhar. Okay, I'll say the Sridhar, is respect for different paths. I fundamentally come from a family that subscribes to Kanchi Mata. And in my generation, I haven't seen too many people who follow the rules of that particular Mata in any way, whether it comes to Nitya Karma or anything else for that matter. And everybody has excuses to offer. Now, these people, where the apple has fallen far away from the tree, will find it very difficult to swallow the rigorous anushtanam of traditional mathas. They are not ready for it. Because what has happened over generations is the loss of ability to observe anushtanam. That is the single biggest loss. So if you try to take them back to the core in its unalloyed version, they are not ready for it. They will either rebel, or they will be indifferent, or they will give up, saying this is an ideal which I can't subscribe to. I will not be able to live it on a daily basis. So such people end up getting attracted to certain anglicized, let's say, seekers, or anglicized, I won't use the word godman, but let's say anglicized gurus, or acharyas for that matter, which gives them a fairly relatable starting point. After a point, you cannot pull them in this particular direction through force. You will have to leave it to Niyati and destiny, in the hope that if it is written, they will find their path from that person to the core, ultimately. The reason why I've come to this conclusion is, the magnitude of the problem is such that if we try to tackle the problem on our own, we will be disheartened, and whatever little we can do, we won't be able to do even that, because we'll ask ourselves, what is the point? I don't seem to be able to make a dent. The problem is such, it is so multifaceted, it's across sectors. You will lose hope, and hope is the only thing that sustains us, and I've said this often. Hindus of all the people and Sanatanis of all the people do not have the option of being hopeless given the kind of problems we have. So, I would request all paramparaik and traditional platforms to understand that non-parampara platforms have a certain utility and functionality at this particular point in time. And if they have happened, they must have happened because universe has a certain plan in mind. And when the audience is right, or let's say when the audience is ready for the message to be consumed in its most unalloyed form, that too will happen. That too will happen. Because the best thing about Sanatana Dharma is that as much as it believes in Swadharma and Karma, it also believes that sometimes the universe produces a certain tectonic effect, a certain organic effect, which will upset or multiply all your plans in ways that you never thought possible. How many people have heard of my experience in handling the Sabarimala case previously? Okay. Have you heard of how it actually came to happen? I'll narrate that story and I'll give you a simple example, because I'll use that incident as an example of my own journey so that you know how far I have come in my own learning and how little I know even today. And second, what are the challenges of presenting our story before a so-called secular forum such as the constitutional body such as the Supreme Court. So I'll try and connect both aspects. 2016 is when I went independent as a litigator after 8 years of practice in a law firm. My fundamental areas of practice have been constitutional law, but more than that, commercial areas such as intellectual property and competition law. I was 30 when I went independent in 2016. In my right senses, if I had been someone who was representing the cause of Sabarimala, I wouldn't have engaged a Sai Deepak to argue the matter before the Supreme Court, before a constitution bench. I wouldn't have done that for two reasons. One, the Supreme Court is an extremely impatient forum because it does not have the time. Matters are thrown out like this. And when people ask, why do you need face value? Because face value gets you the time to make your point. there's a decent chance I may make the point better than someone else. But since I am not a familiar face, the forum has no patience to listen to me. And therefore, you need senior counsels to make the point. So what we do is that we make a senior counsel of standing stand up to start making the broad points, and then we start firing arrows from behind. So he'll be the first counsel, he'll be the Periya Vadyar, and we'll be the Kutti Vadyar. Our Engala Nadula Udara, Nanga Swaha Swaha Nadula Solinderpo. In the hope that if he forgets a point, then we chip in. 3, it's such a sensitive matter involving an institution of such great importance. If I succeed, people will say, Chinnapai Nalla Panta. But if I fail, people will ask, who is that idiot who trusted a youngster to deliver the job or deliver the goods? So it was not easy. 4, in such matters, trust me when I say this, the Supreme Court is a fish market, because you'll have a bevy and a host and a slew of counsels shouting over each other trying to make the point. It's not an easy forum to operate in. So a forum which is already struggling to give space to established senior counsels has no reason to give space to a 30-year-old who is still a non-entity as far as that forum is concerned. I may have been an expert when it comes to my areas, but I'm still not an expert for the Supreme Court to take me seriously at the age of 30 in 2016 and 18. Now here is where, whether you call it coincidence, chance, destiny, providence, whichever way you see it, this is how it plays itself out. So this organization called People for Dharma was looking for people who could represent them free of charge. They didn't have the money. Pro bono is what we call it. That's the respectable Latin name that you give for someone who doesn't have practice. So they were looking for someone who could represent them. An anonymous person on Twitter, and trust me when I say this, I swear on Sri Rama, it was not me. Some other person recommended my name, saying if you want someone to fight this battle free of charge and do it passionately, go to Sai Deepak. And I had no clue who this gentleman was. I met him much later. I didn't even know it was a man or a woman. And that told me that in my profession, there is always someone watching what you do. And in general, I think in life, that's the lesson. Whether you think someone's watching you or not, there is always someone who's watching your actions. So this happens in 2016. We go before the Supreme Court. It was then before only 3 judges. It hadn't traveled to 5 judges directly. It was before 3 judges. Out of the 3 judges, one of them was a Christian, the predecessor bench. A Christian clearly said, this issue should not be before the Supreme Court under any circumstances. And he was a Christian from Kerala, saying, how is a petition being filed with respect to such an important matter before the Supreme Court? The clarity with which a Kerala Christian objected to the petition being filed with respect to Sabarimala, even Hindus did not have it. This is what happened. I'm trying to point to the fact, as Dushyanth pointed out, that the problem is less outside and more within. So when this happened, we got a small window of 4 to 5 minutes to basically explain why this institution had to be protected and there was no need for judicial interference, so on and so forth. Then that matter goes to a 5-judge bench. Now, when the matter travels from the 3-judge bench to the 5-judge bench, by that time 2 years have passed. I was 30, I became 32. And on a daily basis, the 5-judge bench was taking up multiple matters, and weekly we were being asked to finish hearings. So the arguments on decriminalization of homosexuality, section 377, happened just before us. And after us happened the arguments on decriminalization of adultery. Imagine what a situation to be in. Sabarimala is caught between 377 and adultery. That is the sequence in which the hearings happened. And we are wondering, okay, what is the mentality of the bench going to be? So when matters of this nature come up before the Supreme Court, people like me have only 2 options. Sit before the Supreme Court on a daily basis to watch their body language, to see how are they treating these matters, or go and make your daily living through commercial matters. But if you do this, the court will not take you seriously, because the court will only give an opportunity to those who have shown the patience to stay there throughout the hearing to watch the matter by giving up their commercial matters. So over a period of about 10 to 15 days, I gave up all my commercial briefings and I sat before the Supreme Court just to see how is this bench going to react, what kind of questions are we supposed to expect. Because law is not a science, it is an art in that particular sense. Because there is subject matter knowledge, but the second soft aspect, which is the crucial component, is human psychology. If there are 2 people or 2 kinds of professionals who are fantastic at reading people, it's doctors and lawyers. And you'll see a different glow. One will be a positive glow, the other will be a negative glow. One is white and the other is dark. So our job was to read the bench, because the same composition almost continued through these hearings. We prepared our matters, we prepared our arguments, we had a basic script, we were absolutely ready, and we thought, okay, I think we are on top of this particular matter, let's see what needs to be done. 17th of July is when the matter starts. 2018, the matter starts before the Constitution Bench of 5 judges. Every day we come back thinking, Poche, Narayana, Govinda, it's over. Because the slant of the bench is negative at the outset. Because constitutional matters are fought less in court and they are fought more in the court of public opinion. And judges don't live in igloos or in islands, they live in the society. Therefore, sometimes, unfortunately, it so happens that public opinion and daily headlines have an impact on how they think and how they perceive matters. So as much as you're expected to prepare for the matter on merits, you're also trying to prepare to address the question of optics, so that nobody thinks that he's writing a misogynistic judgment. Nobody thinks that he's writing a judgment that is anti-women or a patriarchal judgment, because nobody wants those tags these days. It's worse. Because the moment you use this tag, professionally you are excommunicated from a few circles, opportunities are lost, and you remain a person who is completely outside the pale of accepted circles, and you don't get opportunities whatsoever. So nobody wants to touch it at all, it is a hot potato. While we were doing this, I was trying to restructure the argument entirely. A non-lawyer, a member of the team, a young boy who was in his 20s by the name Tarun Daga, basically stepped up and asked this question as we were preparing and we were discussing this matter, and he was a member of the People for Dharma. Sir, why don't you argue the question of the privacy of the deity? If devotees have rights, doesn't the deity himself have rights? I was almost open to dismissing that argument, saying, what a stupid argument. How is this even possible? But fortunately, my experience in the profession told me that sometimes non-lawyers have certain ideas and it becomes the job of the lawyer to build a legal argument around that idea. Because clients actually have fantastic ideas because they are running the business. They just don't know how to fit it legally. So it becomes the job of the lawyer to fit that particular proposition legally. So I did some research and I said, companies have fundamental rights. They are not even natural persons. In the eyes of the devotee, the deity is a natural person. He exists or she exists. Therefore, why shouldn't the deity have rights? Now, because it happens to be a team of believers, somebody did a Deva Prashnam. Someone who was actually doing Sasta Preeti ended up doing a Deva Prashnam to find out whether this is the strategy to be followed. Because the matter is so important, astrology cannot be left out of the equation. Deva Prashnam cannot be left out of the equation. You have to take every chance available because you have to cover as many bases as possible. If you are representing his cause, there's practically nothing that you can leave to chance altogether. Deva Prashnam basically said, ask him to start with my rights of brahmacharya. Ask him to start with that. So, the script that we had put together, we had to turn it on its head fully and make this the centerpiece of the argument. Now, the problem is I'm a lawyer and my legal strategy is based on Deva Prashnam. How do I do this? And I have to make sense, not just to my client, which is People for Dharma, which may endorse that particular opinion, but if I end up misfiring in court, the community itself will pounce on me saying, what did this boy do in court? What is this fictitious argument and what is this argument that he presented in court? I was operating under that kind of pressure, and trust me when I say this, after the first negative verdict, the ones who said aha oho were the first ones to pounce on me. Which also tells me, never survive on the applause that you get from social media, because social media is a fickle creature. And I told myself, you will neither make me nor break me. I will do what I think is right. Your validation is secondary to me. Because at the end of the day, I have to answer this question to myself, to my own conscience, and whether I'm doing justice to my professional competence, and can I justify this decision on the anvils of professionalism. That's it. Can I justify this decision to a lawyer who is not a believer and who is a hardcore atheist? Can I make this argument to him? Because the forum is not a believer's forum. You may be a believer, the cause may be of religion, but the forum is not of a believer's forum. So you have to find a way to try and make that argument. Now it so happens that there was a host of people arguing before me, the stalwarts such as K. Parasaran, then Sri Abhishek Manu Singhvi appeared for the Travancore Devaswam board, a host of people. So 17th of July onwards, arguments start. By the time it comes to our side, on the 24th of July, we are being told by the bench, that is our side, we'll get just one more day, which is 26th of August. And after that, by 12, that is 1 o'clock on 26th of August, our right to submit will be closed. They said all of you will have to finish your arguments by this time. So on the 24th of August, I jump up suddenly because I'm a non-entity in the Supreme Court, at least at that point. Today that's no more the case, touch wood by the grace of God, Ayyappa. I had to make sure that I throw in the handkerchief in this unreserved compartment and say this seat is mine. Because you see, this is time allocation. So I had to say, Milords, women from the other side have been heard. I happen to represent women from this side because apart from people for Dharma, I was also representing women who were supporting the temple's tradition. So I said, if you hear their side, you also have to hear the side of those people, those women who are in favor of the tradition. That makes absolute sense. Because it's not as if all women want to enter that particular temple. There are people who represent this cause. So don't make this to be a feminist cause. It may be a feminist cause, but it's certainly not the cause of women. There's a difference. So, therefore, once I said this, for some reason, the Chief Justice then, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes on the next date. Now, because it's 5 minutes, in the Supreme Court, 5 minutes is a lot. 5 minutes is literally do or die. Your case can be made in 5 minutes or it can be broken in 30 seconds. So I ended up reaching the court early on that day and I sat in the front row because in the Supreme Court hierarchy works. There is a certain jati pratha there. Seniors will get the first row, non-seniors will not get to sit there. That's how it works. So I just decided to sit there and I said, okay, I'll be shameless today. If somebody asks me to get up, I'll say I came first. So I just sat there. And before me, 3 more people had to make their arguments. Senior Advocate Mr. V. Giri, who was representing the Tantri of the Sabarimala temple. Mr. Radha Krishnan, who was representing the Pandalam royal family. Then Justice Ramamurthy, who was representing an amicus version from our side, saying that he is the friend of this side, because each side had been given a friend by the court, saying they will represent the legal position from each side. The court sits at 10:30. 10:30, 11:30, the court rises for lunch at 1 o'clock. We were supposed to finish our arguments by 1 o'clock. And I'm given only 5 minutes. 12:30, 12:45, I had my heart in my mouth. 12:55, the bench is rising. I had to get up and say, Milords, you had promised me 5 minutes. He said, okay, what's your argument? So I said, Milords, there can be no taxation without representation. That is the fundamental principle of the Boston Tea Party of American independence. If the deity can be sued, the deity has the rights to sue as well. If cases can be filed against the deity as the owner of the temple and as the owner of the property of the temple, then certainly the deity has certain rights to be asserted in law. They have asserted certain rights, these people are asserting certain rights, but nobody has asked whether the deity has rights. So this is what we call the hook line. Like the hook step in dance, this is the hook line. Basically, this is the bait. So what you do is that if you have 25 bullets to fire, you choose the best possible bullet in your arguments and you use all your, let's say, years of experience to say what argument will get the attention of the bench so that I survive that 5-minute period. That's it. So what we had done, my team and I, we had prepared our arguments in such a way: a script for 5 minutes, a script for 20 minutes, a script for half an hour, a script for 45 minutes, a script for 1 hour, a script for 2.5 hours. We had different scripts for different time limits. Because you never know what you're going to get, because it's a matter of chance altogether. So once I said this, the Chief Justice confers with the Parsi judge who was present at that point, Mr. Nariman. Both of them talk to each other. Then he says, you, after lunch, 20 minutes. I said, okay. Foot in the door. Foot in the door. Kaal vechachu, avladhaan. Inimel idu vandu tharakka vendiyadhaan. So he said 20 minutes. So then there's a flurry of activity, and my juniors are telling me the other side is running like headless chickens because they never anticipated this argument. If I'm trying to tell you that they were running like headless chickens, it is not to put down my opposition. They were brilliant counsels. I don't need to be good at the expense of calling others idiots. Okay? If I'm good, but they were equally good. And they represented their cause passionately, which is one thing that we Hindus have to learn. I've learned the best of lessons from the left, not from the right. When it comes to representing our causes shamelessly, I have learnt it from them. Because because most of us come from middle class families, so vekkam thoda jaldi aa jata hai. So I said, okay, now let's work together, work on this 20-minute script. But then I told them, we will not exhaust our submissions in 20 minutes. We will make submissions such a way that the bench will be forced to ask questions, because when questions are asked, the clock stops. The moment the bench starts asking questions, that means the clock has stopped. You are taking my time, what am I supposed to do? So I said, this 20-minute we have to pry it open under any circumstances. So we started making submissions. So the court assembles at 2 o'clock post lunch. 2, 2:30, 3, 3:30, 3:45, 4, 4:15. It has gone beyond the script that I was ready for. I threw everything possible at the bench. The only thing that was left was the kitchen sink, the proverbial kitchen sink. Now when you're doing this, since law is not just a question of knowledge, it's also a question of human psychology, you have to identify who is friendly and who is not. You have to find out who is more amenable and recipient and who is more receiving of your point of view. Find out. That is why the week spent before watching the hearings helped, because trying to find out who has what bent of mind, which way is the needle moving. Because when people run down my profession, I'm trying to tell them, you don't know what we go through. We are dealing with the most non-linear entity known to humankind, which is the human brain. You have no idea whatsoever. Because a lawyer fundamentally is capable of representing both sides. That is what he is expected to do, because you never know which side of the case will be offered to you to represent. You'll have to be ready for both. So fundamentally, most of us are Geminis, regardless of our zodiac signs. Two-faced people, Janusian idiots. Okay. And by the way, Janusian means, Janus is the name of a Greek god with two faces. So we had to find our entry points. So it's like Abhimanyu trying to find the entry point into the Chakravyam to see what is the weakest possible door that you can pry open. We found out two things. Of all the people on the bench, the lady on the bench was in favor of the temple. Which is to say, sometimes men can be more feminist than women themselves. Because that tells them, no, I'm on your side, I'm on your side. God knows what their ulterior motives are. But that's what they keep saying, I'm on your side, I'm on your side. And when we started presenting the material, we said, okay, let's assume and presume that we are going to lose in this round. Because the one thing that a lawyer has to prepare is that if he is losing, start laying the time bombs for the next stage. Make sure that somebody makes a mistake one way or another, or you present an argument that is worthy of a second consideration. Ask any trial lawyer, he'll tell you, if he knows that he is losing before the trial judge, he is starting preparation for the appeal during the course of arguments itself. So what do we have to do? We have to try and present certain arguments. We knew that at least one member would listen to us, not because there was any special affection to the cause, but because first principle questions were being asked, which is, does the person who has filed this petition seeking entry into this temple profess faith in the deity in the first place? Do you have faith in order for you to say that I have a right of entry? Because this is not a cinema hall, this is not a park. In fact, even in cinema halls, you'll have to subscribe to certain rules. You can sit at home and watch television and throw popcorn on each other. Try doing this in a cinema hall. Because your right ends where the other person's nose begins. Therefore, the rights of others who were actually watching the movie along with you will also have to be respected. Similarly, it is not your right alone, but the rights of other astikas as well, who are trying to enter the particular temple, saying, we have come to this place because we subscribe to a particular tradition, a certain faith system, a certain anushtanam, that cannot be violated. So these fundamental questions were finally being asked. Fortunately, when the lady on the bench started asking these questions, we started seeing a ray of hope. When the verdict came out, the day before the verdict, I went to the Sabarimala temple, a Nayappa temple in Delhi, because I was not sure how I was going to react for two reasons. Once my arguments were done, I was asked by the members of the bench, if you want, you can take one more day, continue to argue. I was supposed to be given only 5 minutes. I had argued for over 2.5 hours. They said, go ahead and make further arguments if you want. I said, I have said everything that I wanted to, I have nothing more to say. That was the end of it from my end. All I wanted to do was go and sit in a temple and say thank you for the opportunity, that's it. From 26th of July 2018, when I made my arguments before the court, until 28th of September 2018, when the verdict was actually pronounced by the first bench, everywhere people were constantly appreciating the arguments. I should have been happy, but I was worried. Because this jantu called social media, when it will turn around depending on the verdict, you don't know. You have no idea. And I said, I'm still making my bones in the profession as a young litigator. I don't want to be a one-movie wonder. Which is why I constantly tell people, don't constantly talk about my Sabarimala arguments, because the temple is not my professional calling card. It was a case and I will leave it at that. I don't need to constantly mention it. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'll never milk it for my publicity. I've stopped using that altogether in my introductions and as part of my bios. One, because you should not do it, and second, I am more than that. That's the second reason. Now, the pressure is constantly building. Multiple talks invitations are coming. People are asking me to deliver lectures on this subject and that subject. Without realizing, I am not an expert on the Vedas. I am not an expert on religion. I am not an expert on Dharma. I am good at my subject, and what I am fundamentally good at is connecting the dots between diverse subjects. If I have to present an argument in electronics, can I become as good as an electronics engineer overnight for me to present the case in court? No. I will understand the logical structure and deliver it in court. That's it. That's my job. And I have to make sure that the script that I deliver is relatable to a person who is not an expert in the same subject. How do I explain electronics to someone who is a BCom LLB? I'll have to find ways to simplify it. That's where my primary strength is. And as the day comes closer, when we know that the day of pronouncement is coming closer, I went to the court and I went to the temple and I was wondering, I don't know what's going to happen. One is, of course, the talayelithu of the case. Second is my own talayelithu. Because I don't know how all of this is going to backfire on me whatsoever. Next day, I'm standing in court. While the verdict is being pronounced, I realized that it's against us. I thought I'd get angry. My hope was I would get angry, disappointed, but I was actually smiling widely like a Cheshire cat. You know why? I've said this before and I'll repeat it once more for abundant consumption. Angry people are easier to unite. The attack on this institution will open the doors for greater Sanatani awareness. And ask yourself if that hasn't happened post the verdict of Sabarimala. And the seeds of the argument that we laid and sowed in that case, which is the rights of the deity, guess which judgment it gets upheld in later? Ram Janambhoomi. Because the rights of a deity and the eternity of a deity, the eternity of a kshetra, the importance of prana pratishtha, all the submissions that we made in the Sabarimala case came back to be upheld in the Supreme Court, which gave us hope, saying, okay, now a constitution bench has agreed with the principle of what we said. Now here's where I'll take you back in time. This is a non-linear presentation. It's like a Maniratnam movie for all practical purposes. So when I came to Delhi in 2009 after law school and I started working for a law firm, I started dividing my time for my pro bono commitments, my dharmic commitments. I was brought on board for research on the Ayodhya case, which was then pending before the Allahabad High Court. And I had made notes, and I had been given a specific topic to research on. You know what was the topic? Rights of the deity. 2009, I start writing this note on the research for rights of a deity. The Devatas give me an opportunity to make that argument in 2016 and 2018. That argument gets rejected in the first round through a 4-1 verdict, then gets upheld in the Ram Janmabhoomi case finally in 2019, I think 9th of November 2019. By the time you're done, you realize, idiot, you've just been an instrument. You're a nobody. And therefore, personality cults are useless. You're a nimittam and nothing beyond. You realize that with time over and over again. And once that happened, you realize, okay, now that this verdict has been delivered 4-1, what do? There is a mass awakening across the country. People who have not heard of Sabarimala or Ayyappa in any part of the country have started talking about it. Campuses are agog and afire with discussions on the particular subject. 55 review petitions get filed. And here's why this was so crucial. From 1954 onwards, the Supreme Court has been following a certain doctrine called the Essential Religious Practices Doctrine, wherein the Supreme Court will apparently decide which practice of which temple is essential for which temple. People who are not trained in the subject, it's almost as if not just a urologist speaking on gynecology, an ethnologist speaking on gynecology, which is even worse. One has got no MBBS degree to speak on the subject at all. I'll come back to the meta point after this. It led to 9 questions being framed by the Supreme Court, finally asking itself, are we even qualified to speak on religion? Do we have the training to ask what is the essential religious practice of a particular temple, much more than the Tantri or the male Santi of the temple? Who are we to speak on it? This journey is slow, excruciatingly slow and painful, but I've realized every kick at the door makes a difference. 2 lessons. Hindus have a weak heart and they're terrible at willpower collectively. They're fantastic at willpower individually. So after that verdict, everybody is doing Vidva Vilap. Yes, you must. But unite and act, which is what the left does brilliantly. Sabarimala proved that the community can rally around a cause. And that across the board they can step up and make themselves count. That happened. Second, no defeat is permanent until you accept its permanence. And this is particularly true of the legal fraternity, and that is the confidence with which the other side operates, which says, we will build the disputed structure once again. That is what they keep saying when we come to power. The confidence which the other side has with respect to what was consecrated on the 22nd of January 2024, they derive the confidence that time is a cycle, Kala Chakram. So someday or another, we will have our shot again at building the disputed structure. That is the confidence that they have. We don't have that confidence. 3. As much as you need to know the subject, or you need to have subject matter expertise in a particular area, the one thing that Hindus are terrible at, and I say this with a lot of experience, having done this job for close to 9 years now, is that we are very bad at reading the room. Our strategies in terms of PR and optics are absolutely, astoundingly, how do I put it? I have no other words to say, but low IQ. Our sense of strategy, our sense of priorities are all over the place. We are keen to celebrate every small victory instead of asking what does this lead to the next step. Whether we like it or not, time has put this pressure on every Hindu to become an advocate of the Hindu cause, to become a lawyer for the cause of Sanatana Dharma. So I agree that we must become pracharaks, but we must become extremely smart people who know how to operate these spaces. You know why? Whenever there is a sensitive issue which shows some other group in poor light, the one thing I've noticed is that the entire community goes silent altogether because nobody wants to comment on it. Nobody has this disease which is uniquely Hindu called the foot in the mouth disease. They go completely silent. Nobody wants to talk about it. Whereas we are masters at washing our dirty linen in public. And we must realize, particularly when there are people who are waiting to watch us fall and fight within among ourselves, either we know how to zip it when it's not necessary, or evolve mechanisms of internal conflict resolution as opposed to airing it in public. So one thing that Dushyan says, which I completely agree with, is respect all the paths and leave it to the devatas to decide which is good for who. If you do not have that maturity and pakkuvam, at least find a way to fight within closed doors as opposed to doing it on social media. Because what you do has a consequence for all of us. An individual's mistake can cost the community. If I had fumbled in court, it would have cost the community. Operate with that degree of responsibility and awareness. 3, I make this humble request to the platform and the organizers here. You seem to have a captive audience and a loyal audience and an astikan audience which has faith in tradition still. So kindly take this suggestion in the right spirit. The time for speeches is over. Which is one of the reasons I have decided that either I will act in court or I will write a book so that it stands the test of time one way or another. So either I fight the battle in court or I fight the battle of scholarship through books. Otherwise, what it is going to do is that most of us seem to be behaving like soda bottles. Ivar kathra varaikum gas irukum, or ponadukku appuram gas pochu. None of these speeches are meant to make you feel good. They are meant to incite some action, elicit some response, a concrete response. I saw a lot of people coming out of movie theaters crying profusely after watching which movie? Chava. You should ask yourself only one question after watching that movie. How many of us are willing to go through that kind of torture before we convert? And 2, with what fortitude and willpower our ancestors withstood similar torture for us to continue being Hindus? And have we done justice to that, and do we have the very same willpower and commitment? And therefore, I'll repeat what I've said before. My arguments at least got reported in newspapers and I benefited professionally from it, and I have no problems admitting it. But what about the unnamed Diksha observing Swamis who withstood the lathi blows in Sabarimala from the police when they were trying to obstruct people from violating the sanctity of that space? So recognize them. 3, most people seem to be operating under the belief over the last 11 years, and I use 11 years for a particular reason since 2014, that electoral victories and material development and prosperity will protect Sanatana Dharma? No, it will not. Because prosperous Hindus become de-Hinduized faster than prosperous Muslims and Christians. The speed with which we give up our roots and we alienate our identity is mind-boggling. Don't hurl this jibe called rice bags as others, because rice bags are being produced by the Hindu community. 4. My own assessment when I finished writing the second book was, if the first Khilafat movement ended in 1924 and within less than 23 years we saw a partition of Bharat on religious lines in 1947, it is my genuine belief, and when I wrote the book I was connecting the past and the present and indicating the future, is that we are living in the age of Khilafat 2.0. And my assumption and my assessment previously was another 24 years. I think we are looking at less than 2 decades, 15 years at best. Wherein once more we will be faced with the very same question that we faced barely 2 or 3 generations ago in between 1937 and 1946. Because Pakistan was not born in 1947, its birth started in the 1930s. It became a reality in 1946, that's it. So, when you look at these problems, how do you connect that with what Dushyanth has said? Has he said something that is esoteric, that is ideal, that is not practical, that is not workable? If you want to know what you're fighting for, practice what he said. If you don't practice what he said, you're really fighting for nothing. Because you're fighting for the continuity of that tradition of truly Sanatana Dharma to be able to pass it on to the next generation. So you have 2 challenges. Practice your Swadharma, which is a battle within, and deal with the challenges outside. Do not run away from them. Now, a lot of people write to me asking, how do I do this, how do I do this, how do I do this? All I can say is, I am in no position to give you career counseling. It is not my job. If you were serious about a particular goal, would you not do the research to find out how do I contribute to a particular cause? For land வாங்கணும்னா due diligence பண்ணுவோமா மாட்டோமா? பண்ணிடுவோம். இதுக்கு கான்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணோம்னா என்ன பண்ணணும் பார்த்துக்கோங்க. அவாவா ஸ்ட்ரெங்த்துக்கு தகுந்தாப்புல, அவாவா கோர் காம்படன்ஸ் தகுந்தாப்புல, ப்ளீஸ் டூ இட். If you don't do it, unfortunately I don't wish to be the let's say the doomsday sayer here. I don't wish to be the guy who's being a wet blanket here. The ability to even host these sabhas, where you find these spaces to congregate and talk about our issues, even that will shrink rapidly. And we are not looking at a timeline which is far out in the future. It is a fairly foreseeable timeline in the near future. Invest heavily in Hinduizing your family before you think you can become saviors of the Hindu community. It is not difficult to lead materially prosperous lives and simultaneously doing justice to your dharmic obligations. Dushyanth is an example of it. And I have tried to do both for only one reason, to show that you don't need to be a jhola chap who is constantly asking for contributions, saying dharmathukku paisa kodu, dharmathukku paisa kodu. You don't need to do that. Perhaps the time for bhiksha is still not there, or it's still not come. We leave that to people who are truly Vedadhyayis, who are truly following the path of the Veda. Most of us are usurper Brahmins or usurper whatever we are, because we are freeloaders of the efforts of the previous generation, to put it in the language of Kanchi Mahapariva. That somebody has managed to pedal the cycle right to the summit, and from there it becomes easy because the slope is downward, and therefore we have benefited from the efforts and the Nitya Karma of several generations, which has helped our brains, which has helped the power of Vak, our memories and whatnot. And that will not last more than a generation if Nitya Karma is not revived. I have been a lapsed Brahmin for the better part of my life, and my behavior is less of a Brahmin, more of a Kshatriya. Whether it's good or bad, only the gods know. Even making these statements will invite casteist jibes at me from different places. The fall of the Hindu society since 1857 is the fall of the Dvija and nobody else. If the Dvija is revived, the faith in that is revived, you have a core corpus of people who are willing to fight for that particular identity for the rest of their lives, and they will pass on the baton to the next generation. Otherwise, I know of several people, அதை அவுத்து போட்டு ட்ரெஸ் மாதிரி அவள் வந்து தொங்க போட்டுடுவா. ஏன்னா அவருக்கு வந்து ராத்திரி வேலை 7:30க்கு அப்புறம் ஏதோ பண்ணணும், டப்புன்னு ஒரு பாட்டில் ஓப்பன் ஆகும், திருப்பி அது வந்து பூனல் டைமில் இல்லாட்டி அந்த what is this during the August time when you have to Avani Avitam, that's when you suddenly revive your vows of being a Brahmin or whatever it is. I'll part with one controversial statement and I'll close it at that. The secularization and de-Sanatanization of the Hindu community started in 1835. Tittam potu start panna vela idu, where they were absolutely clear, rob the Hindu of his Nitya Karma and you will rob him of his Hindu identity in about 3 generations. And they successfully proved it right, because one of the first things that they did after the revolt of 1857 was to introduce employment rules which require you to cut the shikha or to not sport the vibhuti in office spaces. And you will see echoes of that in modern office spaces till date. The reason is, just as I think the Yankees is the nickname given to American soldiers and Johnnies is the name given to Brits. You know what was the name for soldiers of the British Indian Army? Pandes. Why Pandes? Because the Brahmins of Bengal and Uttar Pradesh would join heavily. They were the ones who constituted the British Indian Army, which is why when they gave those cartridges, the revolt took place with such ferocity. Before that, a little known mutiny took place in Vellore for the very same reasons, because Christian missionaries were busy spreading pamphlets trying to convert Hindu forces or Hindu members of the British Indian Army. That is when the British man decided, I have to do 2 things. Outwardly don't touch religion, but gradually push towards secularization by putting in place certain rules which requires them to abandon Nitya Karma on a daily basis. 1857, we are in 2025. Ask yourself if that experiment has not been proven successfully. My answer is a yes. Therefore, when Mahaprabhu says, until the Brahmin goes back to the village and re-establishes the practice, there is no hope for revival of Sanatana Dharma, I stand by it, except that I would add my own 2 little contributions to it. You must find a way to revive those traditions, and at the same time you must confidently fight the modern world in a language that it understands, which is English. Do not give up English. Do not give up English under any circumstances. I know this is a counterintuitive suggestion. Until your children become comfortable receiving this very message in an Indian or an Indic language, English is my calling card, and I have absolutely no qualms making that statement. I will do so unabashedly, because I know of hardcore communist students who have become hardcore Hindutvaite students after listening and reading to these books and lectures. And the tipping point or the turning point, I have to say this only for one reason, not for self-edification, but to tell you that change is possible. Do not give up on this generation under any circumstances. Give them the right material in the right way and say it with conviction and practice it and show it through your own conduct. They will listen. What they will not put up with is hypocrisy. That there is a huge slip between the cup and the lip, that they will not tolerate. I myself am capable of saying it, so why will they not say it? So, there are 2 aspects for Hindu survival or Sanatana survival. Sanatana Dharma may survive. The question has always been whether it will survive in Bharat. Remember that. Because Sanatana Dharma, because it's Sanatana Dharma, we will find a way to survive elsewhere. Russians are waiting, Germans are waiting, everybody is waiting. They'll all take it up because they understand the value better than us. Whether it will survive in the land of its origin is the biggest question. It's as good or as bad as asking, will nature survive because of climate change? Nature will always survive. Because one pralayam will come, hit reset and the job is done. The ice age will start and everything will start. So you're not trying to protect nature, you're trying to protect yourself. That is the same thing with Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma and Prakriti cannot be separated. Therefore, the rules are more or less the same. 3. Never ever outsource Sanatana interest to any political party altogether. Ever. Use them to get the job done, but don't blindly trust anyone. Until the job is done, it is not done, and we are far from getting it done. We have inherited problems of at least 200 years, if not more. And the reason why I say 200 years is, we managed to keep our way of life alive under the peril of the sword. But what ultimately we crumbled and buckled under is the power of the pen. And that investment is far more pernicious and long-lasting, which is what we are trying to counter through our limited contributions. So please make sure that you ask hard, uncomfortable questions of anyone who is in power, who claims to bat for Hindu interest. Encourage them for sure, without a doubt. Make sure that your cause is politically incentivized for their survival, so much so that they work on it because they know there's a vote bank to be catered to. But do not stop pushing the envelope. Do not let anybody operate under a savior complex until we are truly saved. So there's a very popular saying in Maharashtra. It translates to, हर घर में शिवाजी पैदा होना चाहिए, बस अपने घर में नहीं. That is more or less the problem of our position today. Because the more you celebrate a Sai Deepak or a Dushyan Sridhar, you're piling on us as opposed to giving us more support. The problems are too much for us to handle on our own. And this is not a statement of weakness, it's a statement of fact. We need more people who can join this particular yajna. We need more, what do they call it? What is this twig? Samidaya. We need more for this yajna. At the very least, what we are capable of doing is to kick the door open and keep it open for others to enter. But if there is nobody else to enter, what are we doing? 5 வருஷம் கழிச்சு திருப்பி இதே பேச்சு நான் தான் இங்க வந்து பேசணும்னா உங்களை என்ன சொல்றதுன்னு தெரியல, என்ன என்ன சொல்றதுன்னு தெரியல. I am jobless, and what are you? You decide. Either get fresh faces or get sharper issues and use this platform to come out with hardcore resolutions which can be actioned upon, so that you follow up and ask, what have we addressed, at least locally, for the community to benefit from? Since I'm a hard-nosed litigator, I'm bringing that particular sharpness and that ruthlessness to bear on this particular question. How have we pushed the envelope? How have we made a change? If there is no impact which is tangible, all of it is nothing but bluster and guff and smoke. So when you walk out of this place, take a few sankalpams and stick to them, even if it's 1 or 2. Dushyanth has given you a few. From the perspective of tradition, I am trying to give you a different flavor, but a connected flavor in terms of the larger challenges at hand for the community. They are not connected, they are two sides of the same coin. Because as long as these problems fester, the way of life that Dushyanth is trying to live will find it difficult to find oxygen. People like us are merely gatekeepers hoping that this tsunami will not eat up those who are doing Bijaraksha through Vedadhyanam. We are only gatekeepers, but the actual work is being done by them. A lot of people end up asking, நம்ம குருக்கள் எதுவுமே பேச மாட்டேங்கிறாளே, அவ பேச மாட்டேங்களே. அவ பேசணும், வேதத்தையும் காப்பாற்றணும். நீங்கள் என்னப்பா பண்ணுறது? 3 வேளை சாப்பிட்டுருக்கல. If they have to do everything, what are you doing? அவளுக்கு வேதாத்தியானம் பண்ணுறவளுக்கு பொண்ணு கொடுக்க கூட நம்மளுக்கு வக்கு கிடையாது. They are struggling without brides. They are struggling without support for goshalas. We would prefer a California maaplai as opposed to someone in an agraharam. And we want to come here and say, ஐயோ இப்போ எப்படி நம்ம சனாதன தர்மத்தை காப்பாற்றுறது? இதோட பெரிய ஹிப்பாக்ரசி இருக்க முடியுமா? பாடன் மீ கொஞ்சம் விக்கட்ட கவி மாதிரி பேசிதான் ஆகணும். அவளை காப்பாத்துங்கோ, வேதம் உங்களை காப்பாற்றும். They are the true civilizational destitutes because they are doing what the civilization expects of them without getting anything in return except for ridicule even from their own compatriots and co-religionists. We are civilizational amnesiacs, not destitutes, because நம்ம மறந்து போயாச்சு. So we don't have the right to do this opari whatsoever. அவதான் பண்ணணும் because அவதான் காப்பாத்துறா. So kindly do not forget that those of us sitting in this audience are materially more, let's say, better off compared to those people. If I have to contribute to a cause, I will go by what the Veda says. Go Brahmana Hitaya, straightforward suggestion, that's it. That's where the calculation ends for me. We are all Binos. He-nos are Hindus in name only, Binos are Brahmanas in name only. Whoever they are. So, I would prefer to support that core as much as possible. Because that core is constantly being ridiculed through social media, through articles, through movies, through journals, every day. Previously, I used to think twice before using the word Brahmin or uttering the word Brahmin. I have stopped being, let's say, abashed about it. I will use the word on a daily basis wherever I get an opportunity. Because that identity has been under attack alongside the Russian Revolution, because the worst form of pernicious anti-Hindu, anti-Bharat agenda that we have seen is the Dravidianist agenda, which started alongside the Russian Revolution in Bharat. And from that day on, it's been going on, and that absolute, let's say, snake pit has managed to spill over from Tamil Nadu into Andhra, into Telangana and Karnataka. It is the fastest growing cancer and virus. Much more than any other separatist movement that wields the AK-47. Ultimately, Sri Rama represents the protection, or let's say he represents the epitome of the guardian of Sanatana Dharma, because he lived by it, he swore by it, and he could wield the sword for it. While people are busy looking for management lessons in Sri Rama, the fundamental thing that he stands for is protection of Sanatana Dharma. So try not to come out with books on how Ramayana is relevant from a management perspective. All that nonsense is not needed. We don't need that. Have the guts to support tradition on the terms of tradition, in the language of tradition, without trying to dilute the message. Watch anyone from the other communities defend the worst of their practices, and they do so with such conviction that they literally get away with murder. And here we can't even defend basic practices in the language of the practices. We feel the need to constantly use secularism, liberalism and progressivism as synonyms to defend even tradition. That is the saddest part of it. That you're trying to retrofit these Protestant values into Sanatana Dharma and the Vedic age. Shame on us. Do you need the support of Protestant Christian theology to defend Sanatana Dharma? That is what is happening. We are inclusive, we are broad-minded. We fundamentally question the premise that all of us may be equal in the eyes of God, but at the Vyavaharika level there is a difference. You can't even get to make that statement with confidence. You can't even make that statement today. You have lost the ability to speak the truth in the language in which it must be spoken, which is unvarnished, straightforward bullet. Rediscover your ability to speak the truth about your religion. That is the day you will have the guts to defend it. If you can't even vocalize it, you can't defend it. Find the spine to get the lips to move in the right direction, the hands will move in the right direction. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind, Jai Shri Ram.
Flow of thoughts and subtle humor, Sri Dushyan Sridhar, who is very much needed speaker for the Sanatana Dharma, is very much appreciated by the youth. A familiar and a famous person in India, much sought after, to shed light on all aspects of Sanatana Dharma for the honest and detailed explanation. When history in India is misrepresented, misinterpreted, and misguided, talented speakers like him take us back to our roots. Many people are also grateful for the technology that supports such listening. We need people like them to strengthen our Sanatana Dharma and refine our thoughts. A strong presentation today gives us a positive feeling. Swami Vivekananda said, "Give me 100 sharp, dedicated, determined young men. I will make India the first country in the whole world." We strongly believe that our two high-profile speakers today are qualified very much for the same, to take Sanatana Dharma to heights and make our country strong. As said by them, we need to join them with their thoughts and strengthen their hands. Sri Sai Deepak is always precise, sharp, bold, clear, and logical in his arguments. His clarity of thought, base for arguments, astounds us. A clear analysis, we need intellectual warriors like him. He is an advocate not only in the Supreme Court, but also an advocate for the Indian culture and civilization. Both our esteemed speakers today have crystal clear perspective, so much clarity in thoughts, clear vision and eloquence, and have made us all feel and say aloud, "We are proud to be a Sanatani." Let Sri Rama bestow his blessings on the two speakers, and they both deserve a big hand. Thank you, Sri Dushyanth Sridhar Swami, and thank you, Sri Jaikumar Sai Deepak ji, for accepting our invitation. We thank Sri Sutendrapati Company Secretary Siant and his lovely family for hosting Sri Dushyan Sridhar and for their warm hospitality. Tomorrow evening, our program starts at 5:30 with the honoring of the Pandits and followed by Vishnu Sahasranama musical Upanyasam by Harikatha Chudamani, Srimati Vishaka Hari Avargal. All are welcome and thank you.